slide down, rainbows in the sky, let's fly away. Like a bird, you're free to see the boundless face of the earth. Let the wind blow you like a kite and glide away. Far beyond the clouds you'll find another place. If the road ahead you seem so cold and gray, when night never turns to day, don't you be afraid, you'll fly away. Cha-la, hey cha-la, no time to hesitate, don't wanna search the air. We're gonna buy the magic surprise. Oh, cha-la, hey cha-la, be cool, don't be afraid, you got the power to get you through the darkest night. Cha-la. Swinging round and round the endless sky like a coaster. Hold on tight, or you may find yourself trapped in a maze. When that happens, you may think you won't ever find a way, as the paths that you may take all seem the same. If the road ahead you seem so cold and gray, when night never turns to day, don't you be afraid, you'll fly away. Cha-la, hey cha-la, no time to hesitate, don't wanna search the earth, we're dinner by the magic surprise. Oh, cha-la, hey cha-la, be cool, don't be afraid, you got the power to get you through the night. Oh, cha-la, hey cha-la, no time to hesitate, go on and search the earth, we're dinner by the magic surprise. Oh, cha-la, hey cha-la, be cool, don't be afraid, you got the power to get you through the darkest night. Cha-la,
Oh man, I love that song. This always gets me pumping. Hey guys, it's me again, the Ekron writer. Welcome you to the final saga in the Bouncer Tetralogy. We have just completed the Black-Hooded Sion Saga, and this takes place several years, actually a few years, after the original story arc as well as the other two. Originally, this was supposed to be a Bouncer trilogy, but last spring, I actually added another saga to the series, to the Bouncer Dragon Ball Z crossover. And this one actually takes place just before the events of Dragon Ball Super, which I'll admit I'm not really a huge fan of because I quit watching DBZ. So that was it for me. Anyway, last spring I just came up with this story arc and I transformed it into a tetralogy known as the Yakuza Saga. So, let's get started with this story, shall we? As we make our way to the Black-Hooded Sion Saga to the Yakuza Saga. Alright, let's get this thing started. Alright, here we are, the Yakuza Saga. I'd mentioned earlier that I'd scrapped away many miscellaneous ideas for another Bouncer story for quite a number of years. Originally, yes, it was supposed to be a trilogy, but ever since I saw Clement's LP, as well as getting jealousy of fanfiction dreamers' progress in popularity, on our Kim Possible Ratchet and Clank fix, I wanted to expand the Bouncer a tad more. Yes, it'll still be within the Dragon Ball universe, 'cause why not? They continue with Super, so I might as well continue with the Yakuza saga. Trust me, you'll see why soon enough. I always wanted a Bouncer sequel, so I might as well create this story from scratch, with little to no relevance to the game whatsoever. So without further delay, let's get on with the show. Alright, the prologue. This began when Sion Barzad was training at an open field. His usual Dog Street hoodie was colored black with white lining, and basically it's what you saw on the cover art. By the way, I don't think I have to describe all that. The weather was bright and balmy during a fine afternoon, and his love, Dominique Cross, as well as his master Wang Liang, were with him. Actually, the octogenarian was standing at the sidelines while the android was in the middle of the field. Believe it or not, she was actually sparring with the young bouncer as well as moving in sync as he shown her his moves. Her reflexes were sharp as she blocked, countered, and moved, almost mimicking Sion's actions and swiftness. She was quite fortunate that her personal coach, Android 18, was able to teach her how to defend herself both offensively and defensively, as she accepted the fact that she wasn't alone on living as an android instead of being a recluse. Although she wasn't as endurable as Sion, she made up for it in outstanding agility and strength. She landed a fist on Sion's fist as he covered his face. The impact created a sharp pang through his unfortunate arms as he grimaced. Dominique has some very powerful moves. 18 did keep on reprimanding her that she must hold back her prowess a little if she ever spars with humans, in order to prevent some serious injury, considering she was half metal. Okay, you two, that's enough. Wang walked up to the pair and separated them, hardly showing a smile beneath his heavy beard as white as snow. Despite his achiness, Sion wiped some thick sweat with his black gloves. They were both panting from their workout. He gave her a handshake, saying she did great. They walked together up the hill toward the residence, which is a blanche two-story colonial. It was Sion's and Wang's home until the disciple decided to move away from Dog Street and invited Dominique along. Looks like all that training is finally paying off, Dominique. Thanks, Sion. She couldn't wait to show her friends Volko and Echidna on what she could do. She always remembered Android 18's warning that a woman must learn to fend herself, as Edge is said to have a large crime rate, which meant that chances were high for a female to get mangled, killed, or raped, which is very true. A few years ago, she was tweaked at Capsule Corp as Bulma and Dr. Brief gave her a makeover so she could use her volatile actions more effectively, as well as remove any malicious hardware that her brother Dorgon left, which is in the Mikado saga. Since then, she had been more cheerful and lively than ever before. I really owe you guys a lot for all the kindness you've given me, and I can't thank all of you and 18 enough for teaching me on how I should fight. I don't want to get into any phrase, but... Hey, it's fine, Dominique. We're even. You don't have to owe us anything. You truly need all these skills if you need to survive. That's just the way of the streets. Even I had to learn all that. He briefly reminisced on how important it was to learn from the best, particularly when he was idolized Wong, and soon becoming a bouncer at the Bar Fate utilizing his teachings. Then actually being a full-fledged hero. It was very reassuring that Dominique was budding slowly but surely like a flower, pretty but also alert and ready to whatever came her way. She was so relieved that she no longer was the helpless damsel like she used to be. Later that night, Sion was attending his usual shift as he stood alone outside the bar. He was at his space to the left of the old double doors while his favorite Dog Street logo sneered at the right. Actually, it should be on both sides. It was pretty much the same, though there were a few changes. First off was the bass blasting past doors. It seems that the pub afforded an advanced music system as a way to entertain the patrons out of boredom It makes service more entertaining, almost like entering a nightclub. The place itself also expanded in size by several more acres. It was no biggie. It was no biggie on keeping up with rent. Ever since Capsule Corp volunteered to donate profits to the towns of Edges, particularly Dog Street's infrastructure, it finally bolstered and prospered. All this time had finally made Edge have a more advanced economy, just as the briefs wanted so long ago. Must be a shame standing out here and missing out on all the action. Suddenly he looked up and saw a woman blending in with the darkness of the lonely streets. She was petite, skinny, had pale skin, wearing his apparel, particularly his red hoodie with black arms. Logo of Dog Street was imprinted on the back. She looked to be in her late teens, and through the dimming light he realized who she was. That's right, Ayame is back. They then wrapped each other in their arms after they let out a small grin. It was very comforting. After the last few years, Ayame had returned. She was slightly older, wearing the bright red hoodie as a symbol of honoring their friendship. She looked around the slightly larger exterior, recognizing the neon letters blazing fate. I see the bar is still standing, and it's intact. She remembered how it was in shambles until when Mikado's special forces invaded here. Yeah, I'm so glad to see you again, Sion. It's been far too long. Yes, it has. She then hesitated as she bashfully held her head. I have so much I need to tell you. Christ, it's been ages since I last saw you. Sion opened her ears, and she told him how happy she was to see her best friend again after 3 long years. She was finally 18, the legal adult age. She confessed that the main reason why she never came back was because there were so many priorities revolving around various issues, such as school, puberty, growing pains, even when she was diagnosed with Asperger's. The Dragon team wasn't involved in a lot of battles, and she just visited them less and less. Since then, she lost touch, and her adventures with the Bouncers and the Z-Fighters became lost and forgotten, nothing more than distant memories. That was until she was finally able to live on her own, under her own free will, and finding that Red Hoodie was just the spark she needed. He understood it all, and he sympathized it must have been hard living with a mental illness. Sion! Someone in her raincoat came out and interrupted the duo. Speakers were blasting as she opened the doors, then silenced a little after they closed again. Dominique! It was easy to notice her since she hadn't aged a single iota when they last met. Ayame! They embraced each other tightly for a short while, just as she and Sion did. They discussed how Ayame was finally able to visit Dog Street again, as well as Fate's new expansion, coinciding Edge's more profitable conditions. Crime had dwindled drastically when Capsule Corp continued its donations until about a year ago. She mentioned there was also a karaoke machine installed within it, and the cruddy jukebox still stood at the corner of the top floor as a homage to the good old days. She also mentioned that both Volt and Chidna were the current co-owners of the bar since that tragic day when Boss died of a heart attack just a month ago. Being that Volt was the most reliable, experienced, and defensive bouncer he's ever employed, he decided to give the entire settlement to him and his fiancée. Yes, Volt and Echidna are fiancés now, just as they should have been. Ayame was stunned by the news, thinking that Volt and Echidna would go into another power struggle since they had been constantly disputing over at Mikado. But surprisingly, they got along great when they began the new ownership. Though the scheduling was tricky since Sion constantly rotated shifts with Ko per week, as he's usually away on more missions involving Lucas while still keeping tabs on Dominique from time to time. Volt was lesser of a bouncer now, and it was a relief since he no longer scared away the customers, while Echidna's appearance was a bit too suggestive. Hey, maybe you can become a new bouncer here. I can't work at a bar yet. I'm not even 20. I still have 1 year to go, and I'm far too young. Besides, she was still pretty coy and nervous on working in a saloon vulnerable to crazy drunkards and violence. The tense environment would have been far too much for her to handle. She wasn't much of a fighter, neither. She thought she wouldn't be qualified as a certified doorwoman. That's not true. I was 18 when I officially got the job here, Sion said. I was 19 during my first anniversary. Remember? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. He was at a loss for words since Sion was only at that age when he saved the damsel in the world, as well as made best friends with the young Dragon Ball Seeker, including Goten, Trunks, as well as the owners in Capsule Corp. Maybe I should start by living in Dog Street, and I'd probably train myself with you guys so perhaps I could be more eligible. Or at least competent enough, she thought. The duo was admired by her decision, and before they knew it, they could barely hear a rumble of thunder in the air. Huh? What is it, Sion? I just didn't expect the sky to cloud up so fast. The 8 layers of black clouds overshadowed the streets, and the thunder got slightly louder. Ooh, I think I should get going. The last thing I want is to get caught in a thunderstorm. I hate these, especially at night. Yeah, it was very nice seeing you again, IMA. It sure was. Hurry along so you don't get wet. Right, thanks guys. I'll see you all tomorrow so that hopefully I'll fill out an application and pass some tests on being a bouncer. I would really like to work with you guys more directly. She said goodbye to her old friends as she hurried for home. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, an Oriental who looked to be bad news wearing an evil sneer had done the unthinkable, as the Dragon Balls were gathered and Shenron had been summoned to grant his sinister wishes. Wow, it's done already? Unlike the dark intro, there's Cha-La, He-Cha-La. Love that song. The English version, anyway. I was never good at describing appearances, but Sion's outfit is a bit of an inspiration from Sora's outfit in Kingdom Hearts 2, even though I'm not a huge fan of the series. The setting would be a few years after the Bouncer Trilogy, now officially a quadrilogy, taking place before Dragon Ball Super. I'm not sure how I came up with the idea of Ayame coming back after a few years, but at first I wanted her to quit to be a Z fighter, since I retired from the series soon after the Boo Saga. Then I just came up with the reunion. Same thing with the Bouncer, as I had many fallouts, or many priorities, on top of the fallouts I had with a lot of material, including Dragon Ball Z, many games for the PlayStation, especially Ratchet, as well as others, including Final Fantasy and such. Ugh. The series just goes on and on for an eternity, it just gets terrible. It's like, all good things must come to an end, guys. And if they don't, they typically become bad things. Fan service isn't always the way to go. You gotta end some things. So yeah, I decided to make her 18 by the time she went back. For personal reference, she has Asperger's, though I have a lower level of autism. Wish I did have it, though, like my rival fanfiction dreamer. And in case you're wondering, I'm not following her anymore for obvious reasons. Also, the Yakuza was something I first found out upon since I saw the Marvel movie, The Wolverine, which is, I looked it up as a crime syndicate similar to the Mikado Group or the Red Dragon Syndicate, like a Japanese mafia, basically. Because I wanted the series to be Japan-based, I figured this could work. So the prologue may be done, but there is still more to come. Just be prepared for another unsuspecting invasion. You'll see. So, stay tuned for Chapter 1. Until then, this is the Ekron Writer signing out. was short. Hey guys, welcome back to another chapter of the Yakuza Saga. Last time, Ayame has actually reunited with Sion and Ayame after a few long years. And she is now 18 years old, and she actually wants to become a bouncer for the bar Fate. But the thing is, she was pretty unconfident because bars aren't really her specialty. But with some encouragement from them, she would eventually decide to fill out an application and test herself to see if she's an eligible worker there. Because she wants to move into Dog Street and she wants to work with her friends again after the last few dull years. Now keep in mind, this story is actually taking place just before the events of Dragon Ball Super. So, with the prologue out of the way, let's get on with the show, shall we? Alright. Whoops. Wrong capture. Whoops. Alright, here we are. Chapter 1. The Yakuza arrive. It was a dreary day on Dog Street, and Fate was functioning as slow as ever. Perhaps it was the chance of some rain in the forecast. Then again, business has usually been at a crawl. It's mostly at night, however, when the place begins to shine like a diamond in the rough. Echidna, Volt, and Wong were quite amazed when Sion and Dominique broke the news. So Ayame really wants to become a bouncer? Well, that's quite intriguing. Yes, she said she would move to Dog Street, and when she does, she would like to have some training to see if she's qualified for the job. Admirable. Although she is uncoordinated, and she seems to be frail just like you and me. But with the proper training, I'm sure she would succeed if she could put her mind to it. She has helped all of you save the world from the Mikado group, after all. Both briefly reminisced on how he met Trunks, as well as the many misadventures they had. He and Echidna both hoped they would see him in the Dragon Team again after a few dull years. Although she doesn't always have to be involved in conflicts, but rather be a sort of bookkeeper for us. She can work behind the scenes and she's very organized. That seems to be her greatest strength. A bar cannot function well if it's not in order. Great idea, Master! Even he was aware of Ayame's niches, whether it be organization, her speed and agility in terms of combat, or leadership skills and resources when he found and recruited Goten, Trunks, Gohan, as well as others. Besides, Dominique, Volt, and Echidna could use a helping hand when things get overwhelming. Oh, I sure do miss Ko, though. So do I, Dominique. Ko's missions as a secret agent with Lucas have driven him away from the bar more and more, and Leanne began to not bring as much heat on her as she used to have been, though she and the other bouncers didn't know that. I can also be her personal trainer if she lets me. Sion knew that their bond was always strong. Besides, it'd be a welcoming opportunity since he himself was trained by Master Wong. He'd be more than happy to return the favor. While they were discussing all the possibilities of Ayame becoming a part of the team once more, they barely noticed 3 men march through the entrance. Each one wore reflective sunglasses, they had tattoos, sleek black hair, all that stuff. So, Dominique began to hide behind Sion at the sight of the intimidating trio. They figured the creep in the center was the leader of the pack. Sion, Volt, and Echidna turned toward them and bravely stepped forward. May we help you, gentlemen? The wrestler said in a casual manner. One of the key things of being a bouncer wasn't only how to defend yourself, but also be presentable to upcoming patrons in order to prevent a provocation. No. Everything we need is right here. All you need to do is come with us. Our master will be pleased to see you all again. He has plans for each of you fellow bouncers. Though if you should resist, spread out his arms, and as he was holding a short cutlass in each hand, His associates followed as they made a fighting stance, putting up their black leathery dukes. Then you shall all suffer from our wrath. It would be quite dishonorable of you to resist the Yakuza. Each of the petty customers gasped and muttered in utter panic. The Yakuza? It can't be! The new boss immediately ordered, Echidna, Wang, Echidna, Wang, get our customers out of here and lead them to safety. I'll take them on. Spotty turned as he brought a foot back, ready for battle. The duo did just that. Run, Dominique! Stay with Echidna and Master. You'll be safe. She then hesitated after a few moments. She simply shook her head as her delicate hands grabbed onto his arm. No, Sion. I will stay and fight. I need to see if my training with Android 18 has finally prepared me for this. I cannot run now. But Dominique, trust her, Sion. There may never be another time. She must prove herself. We can't hold her back forever. Looking into her narrowing eyes, the young bouncer backed down. All right. Show them what you got, Dominique. They can't possibly underestimate you. Right. She rose up and the men advanced on the remaining trio. The gangsters charged in and Sion countered with a mule kick. Volt lunged toward the one to the left while Dominique blocked the maniac to the right. Meanwhile, Echidna and Wang also got their hands full as they faced 3 more Yakuza outside. Let's do this, Wang. The elder was on the pavement in front of it. I know these punks anywhere, thought as he shifted his body. Each of the men only had gloves and also some sneakers with spikes at the soles. Yeah! Ha! Echidna leapt off the patio over the railing and stayed close to the ground as she squatted and moved swiftly like a tarantula. It's her capoeira as a street sweeper. Wang used his kino attacks. He did have a fragile defense, especially when he knocked him down. However, he made up for it in spades with his quickness and strength. It was almost as though his arts were similar to Sion's, whether it came to speed, power, and style. His best move was his silent exploder, as he struck them with open palms both in front and behind, and was used as a sneak attack. I always loved that move. Since the men were backed into the patio, they all went down and received hefty damage. At times, Echidna was sneaky and struck like a viper. She leapt up toward the Yakuza's chin unawares. Her stilettos were proven to be quite the weapons, courtesy of Volt. Inside, the other assassins splintered the stools, even when the bouncers collided toward them. They never gave up. Dominique was so flexible and every execution was nearly quicker than the eye. With her exact precision and calculative strategy, she flipped and spun in the air frantically, avoiding enemy onslaughts, and also countering with all her mighty metallic exterior. This wasn't the time to hold back now. Eventually, the trio of trouble led the heroes to the top floor. It was quite astonishing that Dominique could leap into the railing without any imbalance, nor fear of falling. Sion and Volt were just closing in, using every ability. Volt's lethal grabs and spins, Sion's fancy footwork, as well as his torpedo uppercut emitting a small orange flame. Hell, his roundhouse kick and hurricane blitz made the invasion seamless. One by one, they fell over like ragdolls as did Echidna and Wang's targets, though the center man made some stunning slices with his cutlasses. Ignoring the pain and bleeding, he eventually kissed the tile floor after they've extinguished their own Trinity rush. Hey, come on! Volt punched him in the upper chest, immobilizing him, then Sion knelt down. Go, Dominique! She stood and jumped from his back like a leap pad. She sword made a flip midair, landed, then did a devastating roundhouse kick, just as she would when she was attacking the PD force. Heh, I made up my own Trinity rush. Dominique should definitely have one of those. After that, she saw the damage and immediately got to the trauma kit. Team Outdoors just caught their breaths. Yakuza, huh? They seem pretty damn easy if you ask me. They could just be new interns. Don't be so foolish, Echidna. One of the guys began to rouse as he grunted in pain. He had long black locks matching the many tiger tattoos he had. The workman grabbed him by his neck bone. Why are you here? Why do you want to invade our own home turf? I thought you guys were dwindling in numbers. You don't seem so tough. Raised his hands, trying to keep her at bay. Ah! Echidna, stop! It's me! No! She stepped as she looked closer. Ko? Ko! The pissed-off working girl continued to snap. Why did you come here? Why are you a part of the Yakuza? Raised his fingers to separate his flattened strands. He explained he was trying to blend in with the crime syndicate. His superior, Leanne Caldwell, heard from Lucas's subordinates. There were rumors of the Yakuza starting to increase in strength since last night. Leanne wanted Ko to keep tabs on them on an emergency venture. She never thought the Yakuza would have accumulated so many members in that short period of time, which was the main cause of concern. Long helped Ko rise. You are very inquisitive, young man. Sion, Volt, and Dominique are still inside fighting them. They're still inside? Hold on, I gotta go tell them. Now! As fast as lightning, the Taekwondo expert stormed in. Sure enough, they were still busy with the thugs. Thanks to his sudden fatal kicks, he was able to stun them blow by blow. Ko, is that you? There's no time to explain, Sion. They should be on the move now. What? Ko! Wait, what do you mean they're on the move? Just like that, all the Yakuza members slightly stood up, then leapt away like a bunch of tree frogs. Damn it! We should go after them! Hurry! Ko led the way and the other bouncers followed suit. Sion then dragged a halt. Dominique, are you gonna be okay? I'll be alright, Sion. Just stop them. He ran out of the saloon, and his sensei was hardly able to stop him on his next foot toward adventure. It was a first for all three of them since they hadn't been on a hot foot in so long. Since the Mikado Saga. Volt and the boys are sure in a hurry. Ko said the Yakuza are migrating. This may not be the last of them. He saw Dominique march out, and the trio watched in bewilderment as the bouncers headed off. By the time they chased them to the central plaza, they suddenly vanished. The square was completely empty. There was no sign of movement, not even inside the buildings. They're gone! Ah, damn! The Yakuza are better than Leanne anticipated. We need to split up. Find any member and take down each one. Though Sion just stood still and closed his eyes as if he was focusing something within him. If I could just concentrate and sense them through the use of their ki. He did just that, and he felt the Yakuza's presence as well as a more ominous one. His eyes shot open, and he ran toward his compatriots. Looking for me? Bodyguard! Wait. Looking for me? Bodyguard! Bolt heard a familiar tone, but he was knocked down. A single sneaky assault. He moved so fast he was hardly traceable while also being completely covered in a long opaque hood and cape. He looked like he was completely in shadow, made an ambush on Ko, injuring him with a single spin kick. He crawled slowly away, but the mysterious madman elbowed directly into his neck, knocking him out cold. Sion felt his friend's energies dropping, while the dark key loomed ever closer. He saw through the dark cloak in purple and black. You're... Before he had a chance to react, the cloaked figure lunged at him with lightning speed, making a deep punch directly to his gut. Sion fell to the pavement, had a brief flashback of him and Wang receiving the exact same deathly blow before he lost consciousness. Hopefully that'll be a clue of who he is. Ayame showed up at the bar minutes later and noticed all the destruction. Wang! Dominique! What happened? Where's Sion and Volt? After for some time, Dominique and Echidna filled her in. From the Yakuza ambush to the bouncers chasing after them. They grew anxious and worried of their whereabouts, especially as far as the thugs were concerned. Wang, for the most part, was still flabbergasted the Yakuza returned to Dog Street after so many years. The fact Sion and the others pursued them without any preparations. He realized the majority of the Yakuza was part of the Mikado group when Dorgon took over, while Master Mikado was more benevolent. Dorgon was involved in Yakuza activity himself, he soon found out. Servant of the previous Mikado, he spent most of his life defending him from the Yakuza, as well as Sion taking him away from their impending shadows and being associated with Master Gohan and Roshi. He used to fight against notorious members in the past. He knew the Yakuza were never seen outright, but could blend in with the townsfolk, as well as perform some chivalrous acts, like aiding those in natural disasters. All they cared about was honor, even though they're the largest criminal syndicate in the world, joined by 4 known organizations. The most notably were the Yamaguchi Gumi, the Inagawa Kai, the Sumiyoshi Kai, and the Eizu Kotetsu Kai. I hope I'm pronouncing them right. He informed them they're known as the Extreme Path and members of transnational organized crime syndicates originating in Japan. They were known as the violent groups, while the Yakuza call themselves chivalrous organizations. The Western equivalent is, of course, well, the Mafia. They were notorious for their strict codes of conduct, especially the Yubitsumi, as well as removing a person's finger as an act of punishment. Oy, I wish that was outlawed. Still, they're the most sophisticated and wealthiest criminal organizations. Started in the early 1960s. Wong was in his prime. Yakuza had like 184,100 members, and since then has dwindled, but surprisingly, they've been on the rise, like drastically. He told them that the ones they saw had fully body tattoos, sleek blonde hair, black hair. How disgusting and painful it could have been with the tattoos. They were hand poked. They play the Oicho Kabu cards. They often remove their shirts to represent themselves, see how loyal they are. Like Ko, for instance. All that intel was a bit too much to take in. Luckily, Ayume managed along with the help of Echidna and Dominique. Sion, I must go to them. I know Volt and Ko can look after him, but even if they can combine their valiant efforts, they can still be outnumbered and overmatched. I need to go after him, as I only know how to deal with the Yakuza. Ayume hesitated. I don't think this is such a good idea, for Wong to go after Sion. I think he may be too frail for this, and his advanced age on top of this. We can't wish him back again if anything should happen to him. I believe Ayame is right, Wong. A man with a poor constitution would stand no chance against an organization that size. It seems like suicide, though I understand your ambition, as I too want to help them. And Volt. But what can we do? I think we should ask the Z Fighters to help us. They might know of the Yakuza too. They dealt with other notorious groups like the Red Ribbon Army and the Mikado group. We never would have made it without them. Of course. The valiance and strength would be needed to clean house. I can inform the guys with my flying Nimbus. I'm sure they can help us. I mean, Krillin and Android 18 might stay with you and Dominique, while Echidna and I can bring in recruits to help us find them. Some I'm sure recognize their key, I think. 18. Are you sure? Of course she is, Dominique. I bet Trunks can help us again. Even Goten and Gohan. Strength and safety lie in large numbers. Just like the Yakuza. We can be our own counteract. Then it's settled. Ayame, you gather the Dragon Team and bring both Krillin and Android 18 to defend any one of us who are unable to pursue Sion, Volt, and Ko, while the rest of you look for the Bouncers and defeat the Yakuza. If they should ever come here, we will show them no mercy. She did just that as she called the Nimbus like usual, went to her almost instantly. She hopped onto it, headed for Mount Pizzo. There, her first task was to alert Goku and his family while they'd spread the word of the Yakuza's sudden increase. Because of their ambition, Android 18 decided to stay with Dominique and Wong with Krillin, while Videl decided to babysit Pam and Marin. With that, Ayame, Krillin, and 18 soared back to Fate a few short hours later. Night was falling fast, as the Yakuza were spreading more terror throughout Edge and beyond. While it hasn't been listed in the Bouncer soundtrack, I think the best song would be from the trailer, which I would actually show you guys in a minute. Much like the trailer, Dominique has fought in this brawl. I wish that Squeenix wouldn't waste so much potential and make the actual finished product a rush job to coincide with the PS2's launch. It's a shame, because Dominique looked really cool. If only the gameplay was less vindictive. Even after 19 years, this definitely has some remake potential, and perhaps a sequel then. Also, a lot of the info I got was from Wikipedia, so thanks a lot for that. So, before I go, I want to show you guys the trailer I just found. Oh, wow. I wish they didn't waste a lot of potential there. Anyways, the next chapter, hopefully, will they have Echidna, Dominique, and Ayame team up as they find the Yakuza and the missing bouncers? Well, find out next time. Wow, Leanne Caldwell's theme song is better than I thought. Welcome back to another chapter of the Yakuza saga. Last time, Wong has actually functioned as the hero's informant about them after Sion and Volt were on the pursuit for the Yakuza members that actually attacked their bar Fate and just got away. But since history never repeated itself, Dominique wasn't captured yet. And they actually reunited with Ko, who was actually functioning as a mole for the Yakuza under Lucas's orders. So, the main trio is actually on foot to pursue the Yakuza. However, they were ambushed at the central plaza by a mysterious cloaked figure with a lot of dark heat. And Echidna and Dominique are safe for the moment, but they're very preoccupied of the Bouncer's whereabouts, and they suggested Ayame to get help for the Z fighters. So, with that out of the way, let's get on with the show, shall we? I actually showed you the trailer last time, the beta trailer. Very neat stuff. Alright, Chapter 2. The rescue mission has begun. Again. There it is, guys. Ayame led 18 and Krillin over Fate. However, she decided to land a few feet away from it just as so the occupants would avoid suspicion. They never heard of Key Flight. They descended and met up with Dominique, Wong, and Echidna. The monk was all smiles. Hey, Dominique! She looked behind her and noticed Ayame's friend she hasn't seen in so long. Krillin! Android 18! I'm so glad to see you too. So are we, but there's no time for a reunion, 18 replied. We've heard about the Yakuza and the Bouncers. We're really sorry. The 15-year-old immortal sulked. Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll defend you guys against them while our friends can help us bring the Bouncers back and beat the Yakuza down. His last statement was responded with his usual contagious enthusiasm. Goku is trying to spread the word and recruit whoever is willing to fight back. However, large numbers could result in waging a bloody, merciless slaughter. And so far, we have Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and even Majin Buu. Although Buu was quite a nuisance in the past, especially by the time he separated from his darker self, which destroyed the planet and took forever to kill, Ayame still admired him as his docile, chubby, infantile self. God, she actually missed him, especially when he was playing with Bee. One wouldn't have any doubts from an expert in martial arts and a talented monk hailing from the Orin Temple. Don't mention it, Master Wong. Despite the tension, his humor did diffuse it, if only for a little bit. Here's the drill, guys. 18 discussed her plans with the young adult as Dominique would stay at the bar and Wong would stand behind due to his poor constitution. No offense. For once, she was opening up to an elder who's definitely not like her stubborn co-creator, Dr. Giraud. Krillin and 18 decided it was crucial to stay as well, because it'll take some time to gather more recruits, since they were further away. Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and Majin Buu would be their only hope on such short notice. Of course, Vegeta would be out of the question because of his signature cockiness and carelessness, especially in times of saving many innocents. Goku wanted to use his instant transmission to make the process more quickly, but he wasn't sure where the Yakuza was. Neither did Wong. Yeah, don't they usually have a base of sorts? On the contrary, Ayame, they blend into the public crowds, and if they do happen to have a base of operations, they're often difficult to find. She had assumed it'll be in Mikado, but Echidna disagreed it'd be too easy. However, they both knew this could be the best place to start. Then Ayame felt a familiar though intimidating aura. Her head suddenly perked up as if a dog caught a scent. She tried to comprehend it as she gazed out to the location where it was most unsettling, making her heart race and her forehead sweat. What is it? I don't know why, but I feel something so intense. It just came up to me, and it's making me feel so tense. I'm trying to make out this intimidating aura, but it's so vague, so far. It's her key sense. She probably feels the Yakuza's location. They can get very powerful and cruel that it shows all of their corrupted life force. But I don't know any members of the Yakuza. Never encountered them personally. Just try and remember Sion. That raised Ayame's spirits up a notch when he mentioned her best friend. Focus on his memories, his essence. Keep him front and center in your mind, and you'll detect his key. But can't you do it, since you know how to use your own key? It was shown one can use the Kamehameha wave, though his key sense wasn't on par as it used to. Admittedly, you're younger, and so your key sense is stronger. Not to mention you're still pure. I'm quite confident you will find Sion and his friends. You can do it, Ayame. You must. It was difficult. She hasn't used her key in so long because, she's been gone for the past few years. I'll try. Minutes dragged on. She channeled her energy, concentrated on Sion's own energy. Visions drifted back to her like memories. Volt and Co. at the Hanging Garden to help him track through Mikado. All that gist. And suddenly, Sion was the first thing on her mind and never leaving. Sion! I can sense him! There! She pointed west. However, she also felt someone else's key, the one that was a lot more ominous and dark, interfering with Sion's volts and even Ko's life forces. It might be where the Yakuza are coming from, like hanging out, or perhaps the one who's leading them. Wong figured he could be right, as if he could also sense their evil key. Volt must be there. We should go. You mean just the two of us? Yes, and we'll help protect Wong and Dominique. There's no doubt they could be after you guys. To make the journey more smoothly, Ayame called the Nimbus, and it was barely enough room for both passengers. It was almost ironic Echidna was able to ride it, as it only applied to those with pure hearts. Krillin, 18, Dominique, and Wong wished the pair luck and a safe journey. The octogenarian was earnest of her making reports straight to them whenever they should come up within something vital. They soared to the source. There was a huge fighter jet that passed them. The Nimbus suddenly shook, making the women almost lose their balance. Then Echidna realized it was the Lucas gunship, the Orage. That's the Orage. Lucas must have known about the Yakuza since Ko's involved. The aircraft landed in an opaque distant alley and they saw her fight off more Yakuza. Despite the petite blonde's nimbleness and decent uppercuts and quick punches, which, I'll admit, those are her good moves, she was overmatched. The Yakuza were able to injure her and knock her to the ground. That's Leanne Caldwell, the second in command. We gotta help her for Ko's sake. Alright, that's it! Z-Fighter took out the power pole. Echidna did the capoeira. So, it was a fight with them. So, the redhead gave Leanne a hand and pulled her up off the unforgiving terrain. Much obliged, you two. I was actually trying to contact my associate Ko Leifo, whom I'm sure you both know. However, he has not returned the call, which is highly unorthodox. She was questioning the thugs before they advanced on her, though they never said a word, not about their turf nor the bouncers. There were massive reports concerning their armed robbery, invasions on residential and commercial areas, as well as mass murders. We're looking for Ko and the others as well. IMA? She focused on the ominous key sense, and this time it was stronger. She explained to Leanne on how a key sense is detected by someone that's also using her own life force as well. She was indeed skeptical. What is she, like a psychic or something? Ayame cleared things up, saying she could only feel an acquaintance's energy through herself, not entirely see nor hear what they're doing. It all depended on her strength as well as theirs, whether they're injured, well, or weak, etc., etc., etc. It's still up ahead. So, this could help us guide where the Yakuza's true location is. Pipe down, as long as we'd have anything to help us find those terroristic bastards. Leon decided to pilot the Orage while Echidna accompanied her, and Ayame remained on her Nimbus, leading the way while tracing the ominous key. Meanwhile, at a distant yet familiar location, the three bouncers were still comatose, each one laid up against a large wall with one next to the other. The hooded figure looked over the trio with eager, gleaming turquoise eyes, as they sneered with fascination. Ugh, dang errors. Each of the Yakuza gave the trio a sip of sake applied to their lips. They were able to drink it despite their foul aftertaste as they nudged their chins up. They drooped again, and all of a sudden, their eyes opened instantly, as if they had a shock. One by one they awakened, with Sion, Volt, and Ko. Then, though their eyes weren't the same as they've shown a more glossy, altered look, to the boss's delight, he let out some vehement laughs. His master plan was carried out now that the three bouncers were obedient and loyal to the Yakuza. Oh man! The three bouncers are now loyal to the Yakuza! This is not good. If the bouncer would truly have a sequel, it should definitely use the three female side characters, Dominique, Echidna, and Leanne in that order, and maybe have a similar formula to its predecessor. That way the ladies would have their time to shine while still support the main trio in their own bouts. But since in this fic Dominique's still a trainee, she still stays with Wong, Krillin, and her coach 18. Regardless, the Yakuza made their move upon Sion and the others. And who is this hooded figure that suddenly influenced them? Hopefully, we'll soon find out. Hopefully, I'll give you some inclinations there. Until then, this is the Ekron Rider signing out. wish it didn't end so short. Welcome back to another chapter of the Yakuza Saga. Last time, Ayame has just started to use her key sense in order to locate the bouncer's whereabouts. However, little did they know that Sion Bolt and Co. were actually captured by the Yakuza and brought someplace familiar, and now they seem to be loyal to the Yakuza themselves. So, this is not looking good for them. However, Ayame was able to get the recruits of the Z fighters, Krillin and 18, and Gohan, Goten, Trunks, and even Majin Buu were, like, her allies in short notice, while Goku spreads the word with the instant transmission, but they needed to find out where the Yakuza were. So Ayame sensed it, and Echidna and Ayame has found Leanne Caldwell, who was Ko's supervisor and close friend in Lucas. So with her and with the Araj, they followed the Nimbus there. While Wong, Dominique, Android 18, and Krillin decide to fend for themselves. Alright, let's get this started. Alright, Chapter 3, Entering Enemy Territory. Minutes had passed, and Echidna pondered on the thugs they fought back at the alley, as if the ones they faced were actually complete replicas of the Yakuza she herself dealt with back at Fate, as their bodies were completely unscathed without any traces of injury, though they looked like spitting images in terms of appearance. She also noticed they were flying over familiar landmarks such as the rooftops of Uptown Edge, the long, straight, and narrow metallic LSD railroad tracks, and the exterior of the maze that was once flooded by rapid seawater, which you'll see in the Mikado Saga. Her instincts heightened as she hunched on where the dark key was leading the women to. From behind Leanne's cockpit, she disregarded her instincts for the moment. We heading to Mikado? No, can't be. By the time she was about to put two and two together, the Araj took a violent shake. The steady, uneventful journey became a disastrous one. Leon looked over the controls. Very annoying. Incoming! We're being hunted! Sure enough, she saw digital neon green aircraft chasing after her own. The Nimbus received the same punishment. Ayame nearly lost her balance while a transport lurched from the enemy missile. Apparently, the ladies got involved in a lethal dogfight. The Araj and Nimbus were under attack. It's the Yakuza! It's the Yakuza's Imperial vessels! I'll hold them off! She nodded and brought herself in a fetal position behind Leanne's pilot's seat. The Araj moved swiftly across the opaque sky as bullets continued to rain down on it, and the mystic cloud. Ayame got into a fighting stance and focused her key to be ejected. There was no time to look for the dark key now, as her hands were full like Leanne's. She fired upon some enemy fighter jets, blowing them out of the upper troposphere from simple energy blasts to Kamehameha waves. Leanne retaliated using her own firearms as well as her ship's astounding agility. The Yakuza were pretty fast themselves, but also lethal while they closed in on the trio. However, they still had a fatal trick up their sleeves. Aside from the endless swarms, some of them actually ran out of bullets to use and decided to give chase or head toward their prey. Oh, it should have braced for impact. Oh no! They're kamikazes! The commander of Lucas stared as the Araj managed to avoid an oncoming enemy by a hair. What? Still, Ayame's Nimbus took severe blows while the bullets continued to ricochet off the spongy yellow body. The Araj was also receiving damage, including its left wing, causing it to constantly descend gradually while flying in an awkward pattern. Leanne struggled to keep her craft aloft, and it was difficult to maneuver from that busted wing. Although both aerial fighters were able to wipe out nearly half of the Imperial forces, even when they made some kamikazes toward each other. But despite their valiant team efforts, they were eventually shot down. The wing exploded, as did the rear fuselage. The cloud itself was actually starting to disintegrate with Ayame still on it. It was it was dissipating into water vapor like a normal cloud would. As the nimbus was sharply dropping toward the thick canopy of the neighboring trees with jagged branches, Ayame leapt off. Echidna! We have to evacuate now! We're going down! Lien ordered her to grab a spare chute and she wrapped it around her while the pilot did the same before she pressed the eject button. The roof automatically detached itself from the ship while both she and Echidna went airborne. Luckily, they opened each of their chutes, enabling them a safe landing. Ayame managed to escape onto a strong canopy, while her nimbus crashed and evaporated in yellowish mist, like the death of a Pikmin spirit. Although I'm not really into Pikmin, but I've seen their deaths a lot. The three dropped onto the massive forest floor and met up with each other. Everyone all right? Yeah, that was surely a close call. Her stilettos became loose. I'm okay, but my nimbus bit the dust. We're stranded. We don't know where we are. There was a brief pause and the woods became deathly silent. I do. Echidna broke the disquietude. The others looked at her like deer in headlights. Where? We're back in Mikado's domain now. To Ayame's horror, this was like deja vu. Lien never saw the domain up close, aside from Dorgon's satellite control center, the Gallios. Fear nearly interfered with Ayame's focus as she struggled to trace the dark key. While the evil energy was all around her and her partners, she knew exactly where the source was emitting from. The crystal dome. The dark energy has to be up there. Let's go then. Volt, Sion, and Co may be inside. Let's hustle! They ran toward it. Wait! You don't even know what's out there! Before the trio knew it, several people ran out with their blades drawn and their fists clenched. They are all Oriental. It was hard to tell from the deep dark wood and their blending uniforms made of indigo silk. Their war cries were close to uproars made by the undead. They also wobbled as such. The women stood their ground, with their backs toward each other, and they broke away and fought them off. They had utilized the same strategy as before. Echidna attacked from below. Ayame used the power pole, the midsections. Lien scored high with her fast kicks and punches, though the wide open spaces were no problem while their enemies floundered like some rag dolls. Soon enough the coast was clear, but Ayame still felt an unsettling presence up close. The air became chillier as it went through her bones, and some shrubs even began to shake as a deformed creature materialized out of nowhere. Luckily her key sense was never wrong. She forced Echidna and Lien away. She tossed them aside before the mutated monster lunged at them. It was approximately 15 feet long. Its belly was constantly sagging. I actually made up this enemy. It was almost like the Bio-Lizard from Sonic Adventure 2. I never really played it, but I haven't seen much of it. But yeah, it's kind of like a mutated Komodo dragon. Or rather, a real fantastical one. What the hell is that? Is that thing actually human? Mikado's own chimera? Well, as you've already known, I've used each of their cues just like the bouncers would. Anyway, it was ferocious, used its claws, teeth, retractable whipping tongue like a frog's. So, all they had to do was use low attacks as they strategized using Echidna's capoeira, Ayame's lower attacks with their key and power pole, though she had to block often. Lien mostly aimed for its menacing maw. For once, the women strategized their very own Trinity Rush, as they remembered their partners had used some of theirs in the past. Using his capoeira, Echidna made a strong mule kick sending the enemy upward. Lien ascended it some more using one of her sky uppercuts, and Ayame grabbed the fleshy abomination as she soared several feet into the air, then performed what seemed to be a seismic toss, sending the feral experiment directly onto the grassy knoll. They took quite a few lethal blows as the women at times collided with each other while they were closing in on the failed experimental biolizard. Despite their disadvantages, their combined strength was enough to put the dreadful demon out of its misery. A biolizard? I have never seen a vicious creature like this before. We had to deal with aggressive canines plus a panther, and now this? Hold on, Ko. We'll soon be on our way. Thanks to the extending power pole, Ayame got over the pit, as usual. While there, they observed something very horrifying, as if their nightmares have really come true. It shouldn't have described in loud whispers that the neo-recruits to a Yakuza organization were required to take a servient role to one of the more experienced members. They were officially called Kobun, literally translated as child roles. Yakuza had a complex leadership structure like the Special Forces, but there were many layers one must progress through to reach the top. It was undoubtedly accurate that each of the three soared through the ranks with flying colors, considering most of the membership were expendable carbon copies. Ugh. Ritual for the recruits occurred with a ceremony around sake. The interns sat beside their oyabun, or the father role. In this case was the tall hooded figure that comatose them earlier, while the drink itself was prepared by other members. The newcomers each got a small portion while their cup was filled to the brim, a reflection of their status. Each of the former bouncers as well as the clone counterparts sipped from their own cup, before swapping and taking another drink, at which point the ceremony came to a close. This was supposed to represent the creation of what was supposed to be an adoptive father-son bond between the Kobun and Ayabun. By the time they finished, barely feeling their whirling heads, all three made a kowtow to him as he rose up and stood over the trans trio. That does it! I'm not gonna let those traitors stay loyal to the Yakuza! Ichina's vengeance was so much. Leanne and Ayame begged her to stop, but to no avail. From a creaking noise from the roof by someone's own weight, the ominous man looked over. He knew something was up, even though he hardly saw anything. He was focused upon his new recruits and made a sudden clap. The sound made the threesome raise their heads. Their eyes were gleaming with pure bloodlust. They all rose as their three females rushed in. Is that you, Volt? Ko? You've disobeyed my orders! Sion! He's like he is gone! Hooded figure pointed toward the hapless trio. They were on their own now, facing the malicious team that were once their closest allies. You better not have forgotten who you're dealing with, trespassers. Your days are numbered, Volt! I'm now a close servant working for the Yakuza. How do you like them apples, Leanne? Ko! What the hell are you doing? I should have been part of the Yakuza since I was young. My true master is indeed Master Makoto! Sion! No! Don't do this! Ladies were startled. They had no choice. Volt fought against Echidna, Leanne with Ko, Sion with Ayame. Of course. They rotated. Volt's intimidating structure went toward her. Ayame made a desperate attempt at his genitalia, closing in. She was receiving so much abuse. She backed away. That's it! Kamehameha! Ha! Instead of a powerful energy wave, her palms were only emitting thin smoke. For some reason, Ayame's Kamehameha wave didn't work. She noticed her ki has been affected, just as a desperate move, never holding back. Ugh, dang errors. Ugh. Nothing happened! Something's wrong with my ki energy! The fight progressed. She realized the dark ki multiplied from the hooded stranger who had strands of blonde hair streaking down his cheeks, as well as the bouncers and Yakuza overriding her light ki, rendering her defenseless. She only had to rely on her power pole for offense and defense. She was quite fearful when she resorted to close combat. She knew their prowess was 3 times as much as hers alone, so she stayed behind Echidna and Leanne unless if they should advance to her. Echidna, though, had little to no problem, including aiming for the private parts. Leanne was all over the place as she aimed toward multiple sections, high or low. Just then, you ready? They got caught in the crossfire by their Trinity Rush. It was the same one from before. No! With so much effort, little to no time, Ayame managed to find an energy blast towards Sion before he made the finishing move. You know, that field goal kick in the Mikado Saga. This rendered him off his feet, and Ko and Bolt were left standing. Echidna, Ayame, and Leanne teamed up, aimed below their belts, while Ko got his legs mangled. They eventually went down for the count. Ayame barely caught her breath as her heart raced a million beats. She noticed there was the ominous figure with the dark key. You make me shiver. What are you? This is all too familiar. Could it be? Bolt, you have to snap out of it. All of you. So, you want to know who I am, do you? I believe you meddling whores know me all too well. I lead the Yakuza, as well as those impressive fighters who happen to be my new associates. Registering that voice, Ayame recognized you as none other than Dorgon! Dorgon C. Mikado! The resurrected former head of the Mikado group! Ha! You're not as stupid as you look! There was a rumble made by a subway. Oh no! Stricken with fear, the floor collapsed, but Ayame used her power pole to keep them alive and conscious. Power pole extend! Responded as it glowed in a pitch-black pit. Each lady grabbed onto it. By the time they got their bearings and caught their breaths. Echidna, you alright? I'm okay. Leanne? Yeah, I'm a few feet below you. Ayame? Yeah, I think I'm alright. Bile was rising through her throat. It was a total shock. As tight as an ear socket. Much like firefighters, they slid down the pole. Although Echidna was an expert because, you know, capoeira and all that. There's shoutouts. They signaled Anime to climb down. She held her right hand, the power retracted to its normal length. Ayame's, Leanne's communicator, its LSD screen lit up, allowing the women to see their surroundings, albeit vaguely. The women were so grateful to still be alive and conscious. But Ayame was so close to burst into tears when she recalled Sion's viciousness. Leanne, I have to contact the group. She handed her the device over, and she contacted Fate, actually. With exact precision, 18 picked up. 18! It's Dorgon! What? It's Dorgon! He's back! Before she ordered Wong, Krillin, and Dominique to come down, while holding the receiver, she told them up front. My brother has returned? Wong's mind shifted to when he was killed in cold blood. Wong! Krillin was caught in time. Wong! Oh no. This is horrible. You think Dorgon was wished back by the Dragon Balls? I don't know. I can't be sure if a Yakuza member used them, or maybe he's just a clone. I don't know. This was undoubtedly by far the worst possible scenario the new heroes have ever faced. It was said by an old man at Jingle Village the Nimbus Cloud cannot be destroyed, but Tambourine did just that. Tambourine used his key. I looked it up, by the way. I still need to catch up on the original Dragon Ball, but I'm not so certain. I only stopped by at the tournament with Master Roshi in disguise as Jackie Chun. Like, come on, really? Why can't he just do it without the disguise? Besides, I think Master Roshi cheated. Anyway, I looked this up. It was destroyed before the King Piccolo saga. Another thing the sequels should have are like different elements or playstyles, like, the dogfight. And you'll get bouncer points with every vessel destroyed. Aimee would be fighting to a similar style if Fox would deal with the shark claws in Star Fox Adventures. The drinking of the alcoholic beverage sake is a common ceremony to represent the creation of a bond in Japanese culture. Sake was seen as a bond that adheres the relationship between people, like a wedding. Only this case, it's the internship of the Yakuza members. Religious significance, it should be in a Japanese Shinto shrine, or in this case, a place of power, and the Mikado Crystal Dome is the most appropriate. So yes, Doragon C. Mikado is backed and somehow resurrected by the Dragon Balls they believed. With Sion Volt and Co. as official members, the women are now stranded and imprisoned at his domain. Will the Z-Fighters come to their rescue? Or will it be a lose-lose situation for all of them? Wow, they go by so fast. Until then, this is the Ekron Writer signing out. To be continued, guys. Whew. Good thing Dominique Cross got her codes rearranged in Capsule Corp. Otherwise, she would have gone haywire for sure. Welcome back to another chapter of the Yakuza saga. Last time, the ladies found themselves captured in Mikado after they had dealt with the brainwashed bouncers, who was actually, along with the Yakuza, being run by Doragon. Yeesh. They assume that he's been wished back by the Dragon Balls, but they're not quite certain yet. So, was he? Will Dominique actually be recaptured again? Will history repeat itself with the Neo Yakuza? Well, let's find out, shall we? So we come to a unique situation in the story here, because much like the Mikado saga, there's 3 different scenarios here, because the ladies have been captured by Mikado, and they were able to get the help of a few Z-Fighters. So this story is going to be separated into 3 separate guidance. And for this story, I'm going to start with the first group, consisting of Wong, Android 18, Dominique, and Krillin. So, these guys will go first. Alright, here we are. Chapter 4, Escape from Fate. This is like an oxymoron, as not only from the bar fate, but also escaping from fate itself. As history wouldn't repeat itself if Dominique should be abducted by the Mikado or Yakuza again. From here, this story will separate into 3 different guidance, as the women have been captured and trapped in Mikado, and the first segment would be none other than the Valiant Quartet. Android 18 was in charge of cosmetics, utilizing Echidna's abandoned makeup bag, housing all the kinds, from mascara to lip gloss to hair dye, the works. She and Krillin were quite astonished in how Echidna managed to keep so many tools in such a cramped, compacted space, and Dominique assisted as the Z-Fighters put her and Wong under guises. 18 worked on her disciple first and foremost, while Krillin made some clumsy, confounded attempts to find whatever was needed to make a disguise for Wong. The bar itself was littered with debris from the Yakuza fight, so it was no doubt a chore to collect her bearings. There were cult trunks making a past remark that Wong had a similar appearance to one single mad scientist in charge of the Red Ribbon Army. And after gazing over the ancient martial artist, 18 definitely had the right idea. She had to bite her tongue during the process as she decided to make Wong look similar to Dr. Giraud, and a nearby pan was used, after she broke off the handle, to be displayed as an artificial brain. 18's main objective, however, was to have Dominique's hair dyed and applied with more heavier makeup, almost looking like a goth. Though she was constantly distracted by brainstorming on how Wong should look while still watching her husband like a hawk, even when it came to something that'll conceal his newly standoffish attachment implanted on his head. If we do happen to evacuate from here, we're still going to be at the mercy of the Yakuza. They may have the ability to detect our own ki. That's why we should always have our ki very low. Though it's obvious they'll be undetected, they'd still be vulnerable if there happens to be an ambush. The crime organization was reckless and merciless. Wong knew even after all these past decades. They still remained the same though, but if Sion was involved in the hunt, as if reading his troubled mind, "Don't worry, Master Wong. We'll protect you guys. My wife and I will take the front, right, 18? Of course. Finito!" Her hair is more sleek, jet black, remained very shiny under the fluorescent lights. She had darker shades of lipstick, eyebrows, lashes, eyelids. Her cheeks were more rosier. She was wearing high heels. Her outfit was replaced by Krillin's. No matter, since the monk himself was wearing his usual attire of an orange jumpsuit with a navy blue undershirt. It's about time he wore that outfit. As for Wong, 18 managed to find a tall black cap that was able to keep his artificial brain in place, and his wardrobe was very similar to Giraud's, but without the red ribbon logos. She was quite lucky that she and Krillin had got a dino cap as a portable set of drawers if 18 wanted to switch clothes in a jiff. Cyber became a bit more agitated, wanting to remove the disgusting displays as soon as they got to Dende's lookout. Dominique asked, "Where is it? What is Dende's lookout?" Krillin filled them in. It was a place that watches over Earth at the heavenly realm, basically just above the stratosphere, reassuring they'd be safe from Dorgon and his new Mikado group. They'd be protected by its own guardian Dende, and it was done several times in the past while the heroes took refuge, with the exception of Evil Blue as well as Garlic Jr. and his malevolent Spice Boys twice over. All we needed to do is tread out of Edge, casually as far away as we can, to avoid the Yakuza's hungry eyes. By the time they'd reach the checkpoint, they'd be safe and use key flight to head there, go through Cairn Forest, where the Karinga tribe lived. It was the basis of Corin's tower. Both Dominique and Wong were still perplexed. I'll explain along the way. Are you ready, 18? Are you two up for it? Let's go. Krillin and 18 led Wong and Dominique onto the cold, silent streets, hoping they'd reach their destination in one piece. During the makeovers, Krillin had a talk with Gohan soon after Ayame broke the news. He said he'll head to Edge immediately and keep an eye over the Fate Bar and the Yakuza's Dark Key, while Goten and Trunks decide to go to Wong's place. Gohan told Krillin to alert 18 that while there, she should ask Dende if the Dragon Balls were used recently, from last night. The quartet noticed that whoever walked the streets were indeed Yakuza. There seemed to be no one else, as they all looked identical, with their shiny shades of hair, aging characteristics, etc. Still, despite their growing fears, Krillin, Wong, and 18 remained cool as cucumbers, while the bodies covered around Dominique's new appearance. Even she wasn't very confident as to whether or not the Yakuza would notice. Some were probably involved in the last captor plot, Wong believed. As they responded casually to each passerby, the elderly fighter recalled a similar event when he helped Dominique escape from Mikado underneath her brother's nose. Which Dominique mentioned in the Mikado saga. They went through many alleyways in the central square. Krillin kept assuring them they'd be out of Edge shortly. By the time they reached toward the MSD cargo train station, the gangsters in security uniforms looked at the suspicious foursome as if they somehow knew they didn't seem to appear cohesively with each other. One of them, who was bony and skinny, wearing a bright tee and all that, mentioned his cohort's over. They marched up to the group, and one of the Yakuza just got into Krillin's vision. Hey, excuse me, mister. Forgive me, we're in a hurry, so if you could just let us... The silent gangster continued to obstruct their path when they were trying to walk around. He was actually inspecting each of the group, including the women. Ah! Hey, back off, Yakuza! You should know better than to lay your hands on a lady. I know you guys are responsible for robbery, assault, murder, and most disturbingly, child trafficking, and reducing them and women to sex slaves. You monkeys are all completely unforgivable, especially to those whom you manipulate from the Philippines and Korea. 18! Enough! Wong stopped her tirade. The man withdrew his hand with a snarl. Then he and his cohorts advanced. Everyone but Dominique was prepared. Dominique, brace yourself! Typical Yakuza! Come on, we'll show them, even though we may drop dead. Krillin is always so damn paranoid. They fought off a few more members of the Yakuza. Krillin and 18 took the front, since although their other two had decent offense, their defense was very low. Wong was greatly injured during the fight, and Dominique was unable to treat his wounds. Instead, it was only Krillin and 18 with her aggressiveness, as well as the monk's own signature move, Destructo Disc! As soon as he raised his arm, a large, rapidly spinning circular disc made of energy was conjured. He threw it, and his ki honed in on his enemies, knocking them off their feet and leaving their bodies broken and gravely hurt, almost immobilized. Then it exploded into the ceiling, causing some of the steel rods to collapse onto the Yakuza. Sion! Apparently the clangs were so noisy that more of the Yakuza headed straight for them. Upon Dominique's whisper, they noticed him amongst more Yakuza with a sneer. Without hesitation, Krillo shouted, "Shield your eyes!" They obliged before he unleashed a solar flare! With three fingers against his eyes, he activated it. By the time the area cleared a few minutes later, Krillin and 18 also took flight toward a distant location carrying Wong and Dominique respectively. The Dragon team went over a lush, fertile land. It was occupied by many teepees in all sizes, and the inhabitants looked like ants by comparison. Krillin described this plain as the sacred land of Korin, or Karen Forest, in other words. The distinctive indigenous people, Wong became fascinated. Just then they also saw two aborigines. A grown boy and his father looked up toward Krillin and 18. They waved and smiled back. These guys are the proud Chief Bora and his son Upa. They are the guardians of the base of Korin's tower. You know, Goku used to help protect them in their village while he was still just a child. And that was when he encountered the Red Ribbon Army's most lethal warriors, Mercenary Tao and Captain Yellow. Android 18 still cringed while he mentioned the accursed organization. Hang tight, guys. Yeah. Hang tight, guys. We'll be there in a jiffy. All we gotta do is climb up this tower, and we should be there. What? They were disgusted. They already seen how extremely high that tower was. It was really a long spear poking through the clouds and still growing. Hey! Don't mind him. We'll take you two up. Zera's one's wounded body should put their minds at ease when she said that Corn and Dende can fix things up. If there aren't any senzu beans, we can at least rely on Dende to help us recover. We're almost home free. Carefully detecting the distant dark key, which was miles and miles away, 18 and Krillin ascended quickly through the thin cloud carpet. Quickly through. Damn errors. At a massive UFO-shaped settlement that was on top of the skinny, excruciating long tower. They landed on the side deck and went inside. And I'm not into Star Wars, by the way. I know the reference. A wise cat holding his staff was waiting for them. Krillin was still carrying Wong over his unfortunate shoulders. Oh, hello there. Welcome to my home turf. I assumed you guys made it up my tricky tower. Now's not the time, Korin. Wong is greatly injured during a fight against the Yakuza. He's frail, and we don't know how long he can hold up. Do you have any senzu beans? Alas, I do not. His eyes lit up as his whiskers twitched. But I'm sure our guardian Dende would be of use to you. Ever since the Yakuza multiplied exponentially, darkness became supreme. It ain't easy to harvest and grow these beans without a lot of light energy. Thanks, Korin. She led them up a lift after they saw a disgusting sight as Yajirobe was stuffing himself like a pig with multiple greasy mammoth ribs. Dominique was indeed the first to have her stomach flip. 18 escorted the group without hesitation, and the lift ascended toward their destination. Dende and his assistant, Mr. Popo, stood watch while the quartet finally emerged. Welcome, Dominique and Wong. Welcome to my sanctuary. Gazing congratulated Krillin and 18 for bringing them here safely. It was a wise decision to relocate them to my lookout. I can assure you both that no enemies of yours can ever find you. You may take refuge here. At first it was a stunning sight to meet a full-fledged alien life form. He almost looked like a Martian with green skin, feelers. Dominique actually played around his feelers. I wish no harm to my guests, and while I heal Master Wong's wounds, my dear friend can show you around. He nodded toward his best friend and servant. It was also bizarre to meet a large living, breathing genie. With all of that. Am I dreaming all this? No, you are not, my dear. I also happen to tend the grounds as well as a beautiful flower garden if you are interested. You have your own flowers here? Oh, this is so amazing! She really did appreciate the large variety of plants as well as the butterflies. Both she and Wong were very astounded it was so peaceful and tranquil up here, and not a sub-zero freezing like they anticipated. On the contrary, it's always balmy here all year round. We never freeze up here, even in the dead of winter. Dende seems to be... Plump, joyful assistant marched over toward Wong, who seemed to be fully healed. Dende seems to be the first ever guardian who can recuperate those who are gravely injured. He has such astonishing feats. And couldn't agree more. I'm so glad you're okay. Indeed I am, Dominique. So you said you are the Earth's own guardian? Dende described the lookout was once part of the sacred landscape Krillin and 18 showed them. It was believed that the giant floating platform orbits over the Earth, and its guardian Mr. Popo could sense everything happening over the planet, even lethal battles as they look over the sides. He told them the story that Kami, the first god of Earth, was the lookout's official guardian as the creator of the Earth's own Dragon Balls, before the Supernamic Piccolo merged with him, when Cell 18 and the destructive brother 17 wreaked havoc. 18 sulked a little, recalling the incidents, before she fell in love with Krillin. Soon after, Dende grew up and soon became the current protector of Earth. The peaceful atrium was connected by Korin's tower, and below wasn't really an actual tower, but rather a sacred tree that grows every decade and has been doing so for many millennia. Above that was Korin's tower and soon the lookout. Also, it should be noted that Goku's, now Ayame's, extending power pole could fit into the hole just beneath the hermit's turf, which connects and serves as a vital link between them. I may be this planet's guardian, but Goku and his dear friends are the true heroes. Even Ayame, Echidna, and Leanne. If only they'd be successful. May luck be with us. That gave Krillin an epiphany. Oh, hey Dende, can you do us a favor and see if the Dragon Balls have been used since the night before? Of course. It'll only take a few minutes. I shall return. Staff keeping his spine upright, he treaded toward one of the distant forts. And there was the miniature stained glass statue of Shenron. New Guardian looked at the statue, the eternal dragon that was turned into a duller material, which meant the Dragon Balls had been used, then petrified since last night. It was around the time when the model glowed and the balls were active. Then broke the news in a disheartened manner in the bewildered quartet. Your fears have been justified. The Dragon Balls have been used since the night before. 2 wishes were made of resurrecting the deceased members of the Yakuza, as well as Dorgan. I begin to fear for the worst of the welfare of Ayame, as well as Sion's. Namekian felt the dark key from below. It was ever increasing rapidly from the brainwashed bouncers and Dorgan's strength. It has been enhanced compared to the last time. I only hope we are not too late. Sion, Volt, Ko! It was like 1,000 gut punches. She leaned into Wong for comfort. Meanwhile, a strange-looking earthling was the size of a midget suddenly opened his eyes very wide. And there's the description here. He was at a very young age. He just received a jolt through his skull like an electric current. He rose from his lotus position on a grassy mound overlooking some distant frosty peaks. He was more ready than to take on the fight to this new threat. The world was highly at stake and he had a mission to accomplish. I know this has been a bit formulaic, but the scenario in which Krillin and 18 snuck through Edge and escaped to the lookout may be similar to Ko's stealth mission in the Yakuza Mortal Saga. So Wong and Dominique finally escaped safely and met up with Earth's guardian Dende, as well as assistant Mr. Popo. It was kind of nice the lookout has been featured twice in the Tetralogy, with the previous time in the Mortal Saga. Even though ironically Dende noticed they were used recently to resurrect Dorgan instead of him being presumed as a mindless clone. And who is this mysterious young fighter? You'll find out soon enough. But it's kind of obvious to any Dragon Ball veteran. So the next chapter would revolve around the Saiyans as they observe some Yakuza activity, while also monitor over the common locations. See you all then. Until then, this is the Ekron Writer signing out. Good luck, Sea Fighters. I never liked that song at all. Whatever it is, it can't be good. Welcome back to another chapter of the Yakuza Saga. Last time, Krillin and Android 18 actually escorted Wong and Dominique and escaped from the bar Fate before the Yakuza should get to it. So, they had to venture through Edge, fight off some Yakuza, and Wong was wounded during the fight. So Krillin and 18 had to carry them through Karen's tower, well, actually the Karen forest, and make their way to Korin's tower, which they actually used their key flight, and approached Kami's lookout, or actually the lookout. It belongs to Dende now. So they met up with the Earth's Guardian as well as his assistants. So they appear to be safe from the Yakuza. But what about the Saiyans? Well, let's find out. Alright, hold on a second. Alright, Chapter 5, Saiyans on the Scene. Saiyans on the Scenes. This one highlights the efforts of the Saiyans Gohan, Goten, and Trunks as they watch over the places the Bouncers frequent. Gohan looks over Fate while the others look over Sion's and Wong's own settlement. Sion, Volt, and Co. were still with the CEO, Dorgon, who was very, very pissed at the woman's narrow chances of survival. According to Sion's key sense, he can still feel their vital signs. Mikado knew the basics of controlling his own life energy. Impossible! They must never survive and escape here unscathed. Find them and destroy them. And if it's not too much trouble, bring home my little sister. All the Yakuza nodded, then Sion stood up from the crowd. Master, I know where they could be hiding. I am certain that Dominique and the others have never gotten far. Ayame and the others may still be imprisoned here, and Dominique should probably be hiding in Fate, or somewhere in Dog Street. If not, then she could be at Master Wong's place. He was deep in thought. He admired his new subject strategies. Very well. Volt, you will stay here and track down those meddling Slovens. They deserve the worst for interfering with our plans. Never hold back. The rest of you shall pursue them and Dominique outside the premises. I believe that none of you should fail. They all responded obediently and carried on their assignments with no relent. A few moments after Krillin and company escaped Dende's lookout, Gohan in his navy blue uniform soared over the deserted streets of Edge. The sky was as dark as night could get, as it too was shrouded in darkness, like the town itself overrun by Yakuza. He felt the sinister essences everywhere, which caused him to feel anxious, yet still he had a job to do. He slowed to a crawl as he overlooked Dog Street's rooftops, trying to find which belonged to the Fate Bar. He has been there once, but amongst the many similar buildings, it was very confusing. Gohan continued to scan the streets until he finally laid eyes on a building with blazing neon letters. That's it! That's the place where the Bouncers and Dominique frequently visit. He then had some flashbacks in helping Sion tread through Mikado and deal with his doppelganger. He sulked when he recalled he's now part of the Japanese mafia. He thought to himself what he should do when he sees him. Just then a chopper ripped through the air, interrupting his thoughts. His keen observation, it was a giant jet-black chopper with the familiar logo of the Mikado group. His heart lurched when he saw that mark. He was hovering over a distant place, an apartment of sorts. Then saw the side door open and several black ropes hung out, while some of the Yakuza slipped through them. One of the members looked strikingly familiar. Curious, Gohan flew slowly toward it while keeping his ki energy low. He sunk in between the archaic houses and came toward their location. At a tall sediment in the end of a narrow alleyway, the distinctive member drew out a set of keys. As he climbed the worn stairs, unlocked the wide, tall doors underneath an arched awning and slipped inside. The rest soon followed. Gohan then waited until the organization came out empty-handed. they ascended a few flights of stairs and wandered over the vacant room that used to house Dominique and Sion. There was hardly any furniture around amongst layers of cobwebs. One of the guys raised his brow, as if he realized he made a crucial mistake. Being that the apartment was part of a strip, it didn't make it easy for Gohan to hide. He climbed up the front wall like a spider and looked over, recognizing the peculiar member was Ko. He startled for a moment, then his gaze followed him as the gang trekked toward Fate. He leapt from roof to roof until he got there. He slipped down the rear of the place and peeked out the side where Ko and his minions were circulating the area. Went inside only to find it was also abandoned. It was left in shambles from the previous brawl. Damn! Dominique gave us the slip. She must have gotten help from that whore bitch Echidna and that old geezer Wong. Ugh! Where the hell could they possibly have run off? Move out! As the elites left, Gohan peeked through the rear window and took a sigh of relief. Oh, whew. Good work, Krillin. At least we know that Dominique is safe. Where could the Yakuza be hiding off to? Unless... Soared several miles away, he decided to follow it. The dark heat began to multiply, and Gohan oversaw so much of the Yakuza's destruction. Many lives were greatly suffering from being lethally interrogated of Dominique's whereabouts, even having some of their homes being vandalized and in some cases burned. Gohan clenched his fists in fury and he bashed his way through some of the organization's worst thugs. It was effortless bout between them and the former Great Saiyan man. Ugh, I hate his alter ego. He had reduced them to nothingness, almost the same way after Cell sucked his victims dry. Soon an ominous presence distracted his attention. He was anxious to follow it. This was the hot spot the Chopper was going to, but he still needed to keep an eye on two wily kids, Goten and Trunks. They scavenged the exterior of Wong's colonial with no such luck of any Yakuza activity, not even the three allies. The waiting itself started to grind their nerves. They saw the Chopper. The wind pressure from the blades in the engine shredded the once lush field. Hey, Trunks! Look! Stood up and he gazed upon the aerial fighter. The passengers, the hefty boots. They were like hapless insects as they marched toward the colonial. They even barely noticed the unusual symbol for a brief moment before they ducked suddenly. The guys scurried outside before the Yakuza entered as they first broke the door off its hinges. Terrorists scattered everywhere looking for any traces of their soon-to-be captors, including the elusive android. They scanned the interior and exterior room for room. The one member in particular was more thorough. Rather than just using the usual five senses, he himself knew how to use his ki. With that, he was formidable and skilled at detecting hapless victims' energy in whatever hiding spot there was. The boys somehow knew they'd met their maker as they decreased their life energy drastically, putting the kids, especially Goten, in a state of panic. Their flash beams continued to skim over, and Trunks was just tiny enough to fit in the chimney aloft the fireplace. He climbed onto the roof, though he was safe for the moment. He still felt nervous about his comrade. Goten may be brave, but also could be cocky and a bit emotional to deal with mounting disquietude, as he was feeling now. Crawled over to the Chopper, thinking that something looked so familiar. By the bright hues coming from the copter's headlights, he hardly saw a horrifying sight. Is that the symbol of Mikado? A flood of memories entered his mind. Neither of them were any good. By the Bouncer's failures to stop Doragon and the Gallios, while his power level increased tenfold. Not to mention Ayame being crushed by him. Even though they had to save the world. His face grew pale. Goten! And shaking from head to foot as the small tyke. And Goten noticed. Sion! The whisper actually perked up his ears with the hood drawn up. Goten immediately squirmed beneath the table, covering himself with the hanging white cloth. Sion tiptoed over. Petrified of the advancing Bouncer, the child held his breath, covering his mouth. poured low to the floor until Sion lifted up the cloth. To his surprise, he saw no one. Underneath the table was just as vacant. Damn it! He marched out to the transport, and the Saiyan kids, led by Trunks, stuck behind the house. That was close. Sion! He's one of them! The Yakuza! Yeah, not only that, but they're working for the Mikado group. That really put them on edge. I know Bolt warned me that Mikado has hired some felonies and assassins. But this... They were so preoccupied, and they were paranoid. They had a lot of fear. They didn't notice an older Saiyan meet up with them. Bro, Trunks! Immediately hugged Gohan, as tight as anacondas. They'd been deeply frightened. Their sentences ran into each other's, but Gohan was able to make him out. There was the Chopper, there was the Mikado group, Yakuza, Sion. He mentioned Ko was there. He was looking for Dominique too? Figures. I hate to tell you boys, but we need to go straight to Mikado. What? No way! We can't handle this by ourselves? Sure you can. You guys have done a great job when you overthrew Doragon last time. My guess is he may have been resurrected by a wish from the Dragon Balls. And Bolt, Sion, and Ko are with them. That's not even funny! Pipe down, Trunks. We need to sneak inside and rescue the bouncers as well as Ayume, Echidna, and Leanne. They depend on us for their survival, no doubt. Gohan had a flashback of his mom, Krillin, Piccolo, and Yamcha, Roshi, Puar, and Oolong, infected by the black water mess. Ugh, I hate the Garlic Jr. saga. I hate it. There's no time to waste. Majin Buu is coming with us. We can use him as offense to help us infiltrate Mikado. Come, we must hurry. Saiyans followed their older one. They took off like 3 comets awaiting to blow upon contact and leave a trail of inevitable carnage. By the way, I wish I could find the theme from Pinobi. So the Saiyans discovered of Mikado's newer plot, and the Yakuza rapidly increased while they worked for them. So they're setting foot into Mikado, just like all those years ago. Would they be too late? Can they still save Ayame and the rest of the women, along with the brainwashed bouncers? Well, find out next time. Until then, this is the Ikran Writer signing out. Stay tuned for part 3. battle theme. Welcome back to another chapter of the Yakuza Saga. Last time, the women, well actually the Saiyans, haven't found any traces of Dominique and Wong, which is good because the Yakuza weren't able to find them either. Not even Ko, who was leading the Yakuza through Fate, the Fate Bar, as well as Sion and Dominique's former homestead. And meanwhile, Sion was leading another Yakuza group through Wong's territory. And so far, because in the previous chapter, since the refugees escaped to the lookout, they were completely unable to find them, especially Doragon. So, they're on the pursuit for his sister again. But this is the third part of the trifecta, and this one involves the ladies trapped in Mikado. Let's hope these guys are safe, especially from Volt, who is going to pursue them. Alright, part 3 of the trifecta starts here. With our heroines trapped in Mikado, would they be saved with the arrival of the Z-Fighters? Or would it be too late as they would suffer under the Yakuza's and Doragon's domination? Chapter 6, Mikado's mind-controlling method. This could be a long one. The ladies eventually made their way out of the opaque chute via the militant's communicator utilizing its bright LSD screen. They came across a light wrought steel door that was supposed to be made by titanium alloy. Together they were able to move it a notch and went out to the silver light. The narrow hallway's fluorescent lights blinded the group. They followed it with Echidna leading the way. It came through a tannish door. There was a room used to house all the uniforms from Mikado's special forces, but instead, these racks were replaced by numerous nameless human subjects entangled by thick wires with blood and certain fluids coursing through their veins, including their heads. Very creepy. Ayame began to stutter at the gruesome sight. Even Echidna herself wasn't expecting this. I feel so sorry for them right now. Since Echidna knew the ways around Mikado, she led Ayame and Leanne despite them trying to keep themselves from going insane at all those crude experiments they'd passed inside the bioplant. From having the Yakuza clones trapped inactively in stasis tubes to their bodies dropping into them from the chutes aloft, then have them wrapped in wires by mechanical arms while also making incision sites in their limbs and necks. They went through some familiar though cringy scenery. Thought came to Echidna of Magetsu going through robotomy as a way to make subjects more obedient and submissive and have the subjects' fighting instincts to be enhanced, while also causing their minds to degrade in the process. She desperately hoped that Volt, Sion, and Ko hadn't gotten through this, though Leanne doubted they could have over a short period of time. Maybe they had some neurotransmitters implanted into them? They both shrugged at the theory. They pressed on. Ayame also hoped their bodies hadn't been reproduced into clones. Her mind started to drift as she remembered the atrocious PD4 she faced, as well as Chaldea and a bizarre panther hybrid. She also wondered if the real Chaldea was actually burned alive in the fiery accident, where her clone body lived on as a more loyal servant to Doragon, while also restoring her memories little by little. Then again, the pendant was an inclination it couldn't have happened. Yet still, the fact that bouncers could be carbon copies was a possibility. Unfortunately, the women's reveries were interrupted by some Yakuza ambushes. Then they utilized the same techniques as before, even with those that had sharper, lethal weapons such as those curved cutlasses. Her mind still racing, unsure where to go, Leanne's comm suddenly increased its signal strength, showing several bars. She signaled them to stop and she vigorously typed on it. Through the Lucas officer's impressive hacking skills, her fingers were flying across the tiny keypad. She managed to receive some intel concerning Mikado's more quicker methods, just after calling back up to headquarters via distress signal. The screen were mountains of deciphered encrypted data, and Leanne showed it all to her desperate teammates as soon as they reached a chamber surrounded by massive doors with card case locks. They had reached the laboratory prep room, and Leon gave the wary women the following information. With Project A3, it was a brainwashing weapon of some kind. Small electronic transmitter implanted on the neck or any portion on the head. The machine would be able to manipulate the subject by setting a certain kind of electric wave into an area of the brain known as the gator's cortex. The most primitive behaviors can be initiated there. With that way, Leon came to the conclusion the A3 project was capable of destroying the mind and forcing the experiment into acting entirely out of instinct rather than reason, causing their fighting attributes to increase while they became demoralized. Like the Borg and the Cutis. Upon further examination, the gator cortex allowed humans to do basic actions, such as eating, sleeping, killing, or escaping. This portion hid deep within the vast human subconscious was titled as such, based on a gator hiding in a swamp awaiting for its prey to attack, then retaliate aggressively. The biological product initiates the body's natural electric current into the section, turning it into a certain kind of radio wave. By directing this into the brain, it was possible to stimulate these actions voluntarily upon the master's requests. By trading their natural impulses for the radio ignition, this produces hallucinations that are permanent, causing a total loss of sanity in the subjects. Just like Megetsu! Shouldn't have feared the worst. The process would be irreversible, and the permanent shell of its former self, a zombie-like being no less. Leanne guessed if the transmitter can actually be damaged or disabled soon enough. She then fed the intel to her superiors and subordinates as emergency to save her and Co., never labeling him as a mindless slave. Both she and Echidna decided it was official. Each bouncer had a certain bullet-shaped implant somewhere in their bodies, connecting to their brains. Once the link has been found and destroyed in time, chances are they would revert to their normal selves without any extreme damage. However, in order to perform the body searches, they must be sedated first, which won't be easy. Echidna recalled PD4 having some sedatives at his disposal. However, they were no longer around. The executive floor, they heard a hissing noise accompanied. I am a figure to belong to a monstrous cobra. Like that sound effect in Aladdin, actually. The beast treaded behind the unsuspecting trio. It snuck silently across the red carpet, covering the majority of the floor. By the time it let out another hiss, though, its tongue grabbed and yanked the power pole out of Ayume's hands. Their old nemesis was back, and it swallowed the weapon down its gullet like a carpenter's snake. You're gonna pay for what you did to my power pole! Well, if it isn't that slithering bastard itself. Ready for round 2, Chimera? Humanoid reptilian had some moves. Its saggy, fleshy sleeves had its adhesive, lightning-fast tongue enabled to stick and extend to make the monster reach higher and more distant grounds. Even as a counter-move when it rammed into its enemies, they had to either brace themselves or move aside whenever it charged in for the kill. There was nothing the woman couldn't handle. When Echidna continued to use her unpredictable capoeira, Leanne made swift blows. Ayame had to improvise using her ki blast for long-range attacks as well as blocking. Her stamina was wearing thin, so she had to rely on her buddies before she'd pass out from fatigue. Eventually, the mutant's legs started to buckle. The young Z-Fighter just pounced on its stomach after it was knocked on its back, when it finally vomited the pole. Ugh! The liquor lookalike just laid there like a lifeless slug, as more of its insides began to drool out of its mouth. She reluctantly grabbed for her lost weapon. It dripped some more. It's about time we put an end to him. Feral fiend. I bet that gave you quite a stomachache, did it? The three women were grouped, though something was amiss. Ayume's ki sense kicked in once more, and the signal was weak toward the next room. This can't be the way. I can feel the darkness stronger over there. We need to go back. What? Are you crazy? Relax. We didn't go all this way for nothing, hot stuff. If she could sense Ko as well as the others... They followed her lead, Echidna tagging along, more fumed than ever. Of course the commanding officer had to keep an eye on her, comforting Ayame before she get a chance to pwn her. The process of making the miniature mind control device was inspired by Strider, actually. I never really played the series much, except for the original Genesis game. And Grandmaster Mayo used to make biological weapons out of humans aside from cloning, much like Mikado. And the brain generally operates the gator cortex, basics, actions, yada yada yada. Never got too far in the series. I can't believe I've forgotten this. But Ayame would use his power pole to reach from place to place like Link would use his long shot. I can't really come up with some good Trinity rushes, and I can't find taunts for Leon and Echidna, so I guess I'm stuck. So another chapter done. Hopefully I'll do the next one soon. Whew, I'm so glad I'm done with this trifecta. So, until we meet again, guys. Man, how appropriate for what's ahead. Welcome back to another chapter of the Yakuza Saga. Last time we just completed the trifecta, the three-part story arc, the small story arc, the three guidance, in which everyone is separated. There were three separate groups, and one containing the androids, as well as Wong and Krillin. They escaped from the bar Fate, as well as the Yakuza to Kami's lookout. Well, actually, Dende's lookout. The Saiyan boys have looked over some activity from the Yakuza, and they were shocked that Ko and Sion is a part of it, as well as the women who were trapped in Mikado and they had to survive, while also fend off more Yakuza, as well as discover Mikado's mind-controlling secret, which is labeled like A3, and Lian believes that there is actually an electric current going into the gator cortex, which is manipulating all three bouncers, aside from cloning the Yakuza members, even the deceased ones. Let's hope they don't come across another bio-lizard. So, let's get this thing started. This is one of my favorites, by the way. Chapter 7, Here Comes the Cavalry. The full moon casted its soft glow through the glass dome, and it wasn't a very pretty sight. It never is. As mayhem was occurring below, numerous Yakuza, including Sion, Volt, and Ko, gathered around their Oyabun, and he was furious at their failures, which is Doragon. Imbeciles! balled up hands left a mark at a nearby stone cot, the one where Dominique was. I will not stand incompetence by the likes of you. These intruders better not escape within our grasp, and yet they have managed to wipe out most of our brethren, even our human chimera hybrid. But no matter. My sister still hasn't been found. As shameful as it is, I must perform the unthinkable. He then faced his Koban again. I need your fingers. He gestured his own fingers, causing a distinctive Yakuza member march up to him. He showed no fear nor remorse, just plain indifference, no emotion. The gangster went toward the Tower of Terror, and he forced his right hand on the cot. His left drew out a large blade from his pocket. The man never quivered nor squirmed, not even when his master raised it into the air. He threw it down as quick as lightning. But the blade missed the subordinate's fingers by a mere few inches. His hand was still bound, though, and the observers muttered and sighed with relief. But Dorogon wasn't done. Yet. He immediately dropped the steak knife and snapped all of the man's digits all at once like flimsy twigs, rendering him in sharp, sudden pain and brutal agony. With quick movements, Dorogon stuffed a cloth into his mouth, minimizing his screams. He just stood over him and spoke coldly. Now you'll have to remove your fingers. Two others dragged the severely injured man away. The rest of the Yakuza just stood there, shocked and shaken. It wasn't done. Now I need yours. Volt Kruger. Floods of resentful memories raced through the Ayabun's mind, from his treachery to his bloody escape after Echidna and her men shot him, to his final bouts against him at the gallows. To suit the vengeful occasion, he actually removed his hood, revealing the same blonde locks hanging down at the sides, but also the top of his scalp as well as his face showing various burns and stitches. How I have waited for this. He slowly marched up to him, ready and anticipating his punishment. Sion and Co simply just gazed at the horror. The Yubitsum was about to resume. My, that's surely a scary establishment there. The Yakuza shifted their attention behind them as a small tyke with a cheery voice challenged them, then made a fighting pose while he hovered above the floor. I sensed some incredible dark key here, and I followed it. So you must be the culprit. And you're the one interfering with my ceremony. Bolt, Yakuza, slay him. You're gonna have to do better than that, Dorogon. Supervillain wasn't the least bit phased on how he knew his name, yet the young fighter was prepared for battle. Back at Dende's lookout, it's Chaosu! Go get him, buddy! Wong joined him as Dende were overlooking the world. Chaosu? You know him, Krillin? He and Dominique were still uncertain how they were able to see, hear, and feel things below their sanctuary. I know this guy from anywhere. He described him as a clown look-alike that's also gifted martial artist through the use of telepathy, telekinesis, and other psychic abilities, who hailed from the Crane School along with his partner Tien. I'm sure you guys all know this if you're a veteran of Dragon Ball. He was actually surprised he wasn't with him. Krillin summarized they were better rivals turned allies of the Turtle School, the same one where Master Roshi trained. He himself first met them at the 22nd Martial Arts Tournament at Papaya Island. And man, were they such formidable opponents. Until a certain math problem distracted him long enough. Kept rambling on and on when he was slewed by King Piccolo, as well as his failed suicide attempt to blow up Nappa using all his psychic strength. The latter was very tragic. I felt sorry for him. Krillin! Rubbed his neck. Sorry, 18. It's been so long since we've last seen him. I just hope he'll be alright. Nameless Yakuza were sprawled all over the floor. He wound up in the middle of the fray. Sion made a roundhouse kick while Volt lunged in with a lethal punch, only to hit each other mere seconds later, when Chaosu instantly teleported away in time. The two bouncers went down on all fours, stunned by each other's impacts. Chaozu then conjured up his key and used his telekinesis. Like what Silver should have done more properly. It's toward the advancing Ko, hurting his legs for a short while. They weren't backing down an inch, and he felt Dorgon's intimidating aura as well as his influence increase rapidly as he watched in a corner. His skin also started to ripple from beneath. The crane student also tried to shock them as he made some pangs into their skulls as he extended his hand, then tossed them asunder. He even made some psychic blasts and some Dodon rays, knocking them off their feet. But those stunts still weren't enough. It was as if they were being negated somewhat. And they couldn't stop their bloodlust no matter how hard he tried. He continued to advance more and aggressively. Chaozu closed in on them from time to time, then teleported to keep his distance and collect his bearings. Heck, there were also some times when he visualized each of the Bouncer's moves. Then he used their most lethal abilities such as Sion's Hurricane Blitz. One time Chaozu was caught in a headlock by Volt. He slipped away, producing an afterimage. He thrashed at it, nearly hitting his own teammates. Chaozu snooped around. He then sensed a link within each bouncer, a trigger that was activated and controlling their own psyches. His vision honed in on the back of Sion's collar, Volt's horns, and, before he was able to find Ko's, Dorgon closed in on him using his lethal rushing beat. He summoned up all his pent-up rage. Hee-yah! Chaozu was caught in the crossfire. Ah! Ah! He was then pawned as he was forced back a few feet. He was badly weakened and nearly immobilized as he grinded his teeth when he sat up, but also horrified. Chaozu! Ayame rushed in with the Chin and Liane. She tended to him when the women surrounded him. You haven't finished us yet, Mikado murderer! Calling how he killed his mentor in cold blood in order to become his successor, then assigning her for framing Volt. They noticed the young Emperor Chaozu was keeping their assailants busy. Although they doubted a person that size would be too much of a threat, Ayame was very ecstatic to see him after so many years, but was also horrified with Dorgon's ever-growing might. 3 women, including their shaking friend, were taken aback by Dorgon's prowess. He was about to lunge at them all at once until a fiery jet crashed and burned several feet away from the dome. The entire sky was being lit up like the 4th of July. The Yakuza aerial fleet was under attack by some more meddling Z fighters. The women barely noticed the participants excepting Ayame, who recognized the Saiyans, but also another certain someone. Believe it or not, it's Majin Buu. The Dragon Team! They're here! It was short-lived, feeling the usual frightening aura. Chaozu's feet barely touched the floor. After Dorgon's abuse, he sensed another psychological link which actually belonged to the red dragon tattoo located on Dorgon's upper back. Ripped off the opaque hoodie and discarded the shredded rags as his back displayed the same etching, like the one in the gallios. Ayame then had a flashback of his final speech. Pardon my past discourtesies. I will forget the past. I no longer care of the indignation I have suffered. I should thank you for opening my eyes to this new indulgence. The pleasure of fighting for the sake of fighting. It was her last train of thought before he was defeated by Goten and Trunks. And then there's the opening dialogue. The female Z-Fighter became so helpless and horrified she couldn't move. She barely even noticed when he declared, If the Yakuza won't get the job done, then I shall do it myself. I will destroy the whole lot of you! He spread out his arms high above himself as he roared. All of a sudden the floor began to shake like an earthquake. Foundations began to collapse. His body was starting to be engulfed by that same aura she was too familiar with. There wasn't anything her team can do. They were mercilessly trapped like rats with no safe place. Hurry! You guys gotta get out of here! Gohan! He appeared behind the terrified trio alongside Goten and Trunks. They ran to them, and the kids were indeed shocked to the core as they noticed their fears. Volt! No! Ko! You can't! There's no time to be scared! Let's go! Gohan's orders. The glass ceiling began to break apart. A few large shards dropped close to them. The roof was rapidly falling on top of the group. Chaozu immediately made some more telekinetic moves, knocking out Sion and Volt. He was unable to do the same to Ko. He was being buried by the debris. Ko! Oh my god! Come on! Trunks, the free one, grabbed onto her and Echidna that vanished within seconds. Chaozu did the same after he went to the unconscious victims. Ayame disappeared soon after and Gohan rapidly went to Ko, then evacuated with Goten still in his arm. Soon after, the entire dome was falling apart, leaving an enraged Dorgan in its ruins. The shockwave became too much for the adjacent towers as they fell and tilted over each other like dominoes. Seconds later, the hanging garden dropped after its hinges suspended. Were destroyed, while Boo and the rest of Lucas flew over and surveyed the damage. I hope I did this right. Mikado went down in a big kaboom! Minutes had dragged on before the thick layers of smoke, dust, and ash finally dissipated. All of the surrounding trees and plants had died off, and all three towers, including the dome, were demolished. Mikado's domain never looked the same again. Z-fighters descended with their allies in tow. It's over. But Sion and Volt, Ko. Shiden looked over and saw Chaozu lay down the former too, while the latter was still in utter pain. Goten was about to rush over to him, as did Trunks toward Volt, and Ayame toward Sion. Wait! We can't tend them now. They may still be manipulated. Is there any way to restore them to normal? Leanne, for once, was numb and fearful, unlike her usual authoritative self. There is a way. We need to take them straight to Dende's lookout. The Guardian has something known as sacred water. That can reverse the effects of Mikado's mind altering. But first, looked over at Chaozu, who was busy disassembling Sion's collar, removing a nanochip attached to it. Everyone was in awe, even the women who recalled Leanne's new intel. She was right after all. It did Volt's horn piercings telekinetically. He dropped and clinged to the ground like fallen crystals. Lastly was Ko as he peered underneath the hair locks over the back of his neck. Discarded the other chip. Well done, Chaozu. Let's get these guys to the lookout, and then we can restore them to Gohan! What? No way! Dorgan is still alive. He was down but not out. Dorgan's body began to deteriorate. Pieces of flesh fell as other, more crimson spines began to protrude through his morphing vessel. The dragon tattoo illuminated with all its luminosity while Dorgan's body took shape. He was starting to morph itself into like a chimera of sorts. Oh man. This was this idea I had with the Gotenks drawing. I wish I still had this. Boo still had his hands full of the Yakuza kamikazes. The scenes in Ayame should have known it came to this. His Dorgan usually meant dragon. He had that tattoo, as well as those enhancements he injected himself with. He was just as erratic and uncontrolling as Migetsu, only more insane and powerful. Chaozu! Evacuate now! Right, Gohan! Together, the young warrior, along with Ayame, teleported away, holding Echidna, Leanne, Sion, Volt, and Ko. It was only up to the brave Saiyans now. I can't believe I've completely forgotten another favorite Z-fighter, Chaozu. But there's a reason why I didn't want to include him. In late 2003, I was into Star Fox Adventures, my favorite installment, by the way. And originally, I had Chaozu for that, as well as the Fantrons, and my OC, Retrisha, which is Anyway, Chaozu was a part of the small group that helped out Fox and Tricky. And near the end, when they were fighting Andross, I wanted Chaosu to do a suicide bomb, the same one he used in Nappa, utilizing a Nova bomb too, and commit suicide. Like he'll blow him up for good from the inside so Andros would never ever come back, even as a Krazoa god. And in Assault, I wanted to use Chaosu again. I'm sure you guys have seen the movie Ghost, right? With Patrick Swayze. Anyway, I wanted to use Chaosu as the same way as that. And use the suicide bomb again because I'm the Aporoid Queen, because, hey, the Aporoids and the Borg may manipulate all life forms, but hey, you can't manipulate a ghost. The joke's on you, bitch. Sorry. But I despise Assault. Worst Star Fox game ever. So, that's the story for that. Another chapter is done, but how would the Saiyans defeat Doragon's altered form? Would the Bouncers be able to be themselves again? Find out next time on the Yakuza Saga. Until then, this is the Ekron writer signing out. Man, I so cannot wait to do this. Hey guys, this is the Ekron writer here, welcoming you back to another chapter of the Yakuza Saga. Last time, the Z-Fighters have finally arrived. The cavalry has finally arrived containing of Gohan, Goten, and Trunks, as well as Majin Buu, unexpectedly, as well as Chaosu. And Chaosu was the one that detected the Bouncers' microchips that were controlling them, that were making them loyal to the Yakuza, as well as Doragon. Unfortunately, the small tyke was beaten down by him and his unsurmountable strength, so much so that when he released it, the glass dome actually began to collapse, and the Z-Fighters, as well as the women, had to evacuate as well as carry the incapacitated Bouncers, especially Ko, who Chaosu never had a chance to disable and got his legs crushed from the debris. And so everyone except the Saiyans were taken to Kami's lookout for recovery. Actually, Dende's lookout. Ugh, keep messing up. The Hanging Garden has collapsed and lost its support, and the entire foundation was destroyed. But you think that Doragon is finished. But no! That did not stop Doragon. And he, utilizing all the dark ki as well as the Yakuzas, he was gonna morph into this huge-ass chimera, and Gohan, Goten, and Trunks are the only ones powerful enough to stop him. And it's an epic final battle! Oh my goodness, I am looking forward to this! This is like the final hurrah in the Bouncer Tetralogy. Alright, let's get this thing going. Alright, here we are, people. Chapter 8, Once and Forever. In the devastated forest surrounded by pillars of cement, Gohan teamed up with Goten and Trunks. Majin Buu was like a regenerative human beanbag against the aerial fighters. Duragon's massive chimera strength was incredible. He was even enough to knock over the crystal dome like a kid who was having a conniption fit over a structure of blocks he hated making. The remainders of the dome and the transparent ceiling shattered into large soul-piercing shards as they broke off bit by bit. The building collapsed, and soon the adjacent towers like humongous dominoes. The impact caused the hanging garden to fall several feet down. The trees lost all their limbs and toppled over coincidentally with the dome. In the lookout, they continued to watch over the earth. The Guardian was in complete shock. Damn! Duragon's power's still increasing! There's just no end to this evil! No, but Gohan and the others know what to do. Majin Buu would also join in the fray, but he's got his hands full of Yakuza kamikazes. My brother's down there! But where's Sion? And Ayame? Wang held her close for reassurance. As if on cue, Chaozu, the women, and the comatose bouncers emerged. The telekinetic martial artist dropped his victims gently to the floor. Ayame released Echidna, and Lian, her arms were sore. Chaozu! Krillin! It's so good to see you! They gave each other a manly hug as they laughed a little with some high fives. I see Ayame and the others are here. Yep, and so are these men over here. Pointed to the heap. Dominique, wait! Her chances still could be influenced. The little warrior drew out the three gizmos attached to them. Hey, we should have them analyzed in Capsule Corp. Are those the same transmitters that were controlling the bouncers? Yes, Krillin. I can't believe this. Yes, Krillin. I can't believe this. Krillin, there has to be a way to reverse the effects and restore Sion and the others. We better not be too late. I'm so disappointed in you, Ko. No stress, Princess. There is a way. We need to get to the sacred water from Korin. He can help us. He lives not too far from here. Then shifted to, the conflict in the Garlic Jr. saga. Ugh, I hated it. Anyame was in a rampage over that, saying he could never get a girlfriend again. She was so close on killing Piccolo. She'll never forget that fallout. Ugh, don't you mean like holy water? Never mind, we gotta go. Chaozu once again used his telekinesis and carried the bouncers to Korin's tower. The women followed as they transported by Ayame, though Chaozu's transfer made the process lighter. Krillin put a gentle hand on Dominique's quivering shoulder. Don't worry, they'll be fine. We'll cover the fort from here. It's up to the Saiyan boys now. Oh, I sure hope Sion and the others would be themselves again. They will. Korin knows what he's doing. It wasn't easy getting the stuff. Run along. She did with Wang, Chaozu, and the women as they descended to the tower. Ayame explained to Lian that Ko was caught in the crossfire. His legs were severely crushed. Chaozu held Sion. You know all the details. So, here's the final showdown. Boys, it all comes down to this. Are you ready? Gohan stood back and saw that Goten was to the left while Trunks was to the right. Ugh, I've been waiting for this, guys. You wanted it, it has it. Fusion! Ha! Both Saiyans' bodies glowed in a huge blast of light. That's right, guys. We finally get Gotenks. Finally. I'm using the fusion to defeat Dorgan finally. This was indeed the last fight with Dorgan since people couldn't be wished back using the Dragon Balls more than once. Let's get rid of him, once and for all. Saiyans, can you hear me? Dende! I'm sending you this message telepathically, but there's not much time. You and Gotenks must hurry before he can separate into two within 30 minutes. His massive energy usage can only dissipate whatever time he has. You guys must wipe out the Dorgan dragon as quickly as possible. He has an equivalent power level with yours altogether. If you can hear me, and if you two young ones can't finish off the Chimera in time, you'll be vulnerable to his own malice. Good luck to both of you. Hurry now! Gohan then faced his teammate. You heard the Guardian, bro. Let's take the fight to Dorgan and make sure he's Dorgan. For good. Right! You said it, Gohan! Give him everything you got! The people they cared for racing through their minds. Even the wrath that Dorgan caused the Bouncers, Ayame, Dominique, and the world, they instantaneously transformed into their highest Super Saiyan forms. Both Gotenks and Gohan's hairs glowed. It's like Super Saiyan 2. To the left and the right he was hit directly. He retaliated with his strength as he swapped them away like insects. You two are going to pay for your insolence! You will pay for what you've done with our friends! Even to Volko and Sion! You shall pay! Gotenks spread out his arms as he let out all his rage and rapidly fired some energy blasts. Chimera just repelled them. The boy then threw himself toward the creature once more. One of Dorgan's deadly sonic elbows, he forced him back. Gohan came into the fray with his ultimate knuckle, used his backhand stunning the enemy. After that he countered with his super assault combo, sending quick punches and kicks to the CEO's abdomen and 2 roundhouse kicks. Monster hunched over in pain, but his body flashed as he made another rushing beat. Gohan avoided most of his blows. But he was distracted. Gotenks opened his mouth and spat out the ghosts. The kamikaze ghosts. They swarmed around their target, then closed in on Dorgan as Gohan teleported away from the melee. Dorgan swipes them away with a spiraling hit. They exploded on contact while they accidentally touched each other. Or Yakuza played. Not many were able to make their mark. That didn't work! He's more cockier than I thought! Tried again after he raised his right hand and conjured a large beam of golden energy. It formed the shape of a halo as his own galactic donut. Wrapped around Dorgan, constricting his movement, and he struggled to break free. The enemy was helpless. Gohan charged up and created a whitish-blue energy sphere, performing his hidden potential, technique he learned as a kid. Flew forward with his arms in front of him, shot a huge energy wave from his fists at the opponent, inflicting a massive amount of damage. The donut was also weak enough upon impact, allowing Dorgan to strain and break apart the halo. Saiyans cringed at the display, and Dorgan was immersive again, leaving it to disperse into dissipating energy balls. Wolf Fang Fist! Hey, isn't that Yamcha's technique? Gotenks created the illusion. And indeed, it is. I'm surprised Gotenks learned this. He closed in for the kill. He charged melee efforts were effective, though it was short-lived as Dorgan kept whacking him away with his tail, spines, and arms, surrounding in a violent hue. The display was horrifying in conjunction with the opaque turf, though it never flinched the dragon. He released his volley of deadly Chinese Kempo moves as he made close contact with the Saiyans, each one more quick and insanely powerful than the last. Despite their best efforts, they weren't invincibles. Their auras began to weaken. Even Gotenks' single form began to flicker as Goten and Trunks attempted to separate like a person seeing double. This process caused him to lose his vital energy. The boys backed away. They noticed he was focused entirely on offense while he was making some reckless strikes toward them. Some of his punches even left craters the size and depth of houses, terrifying the duo. Dorgon's gauntlet glowed a purplish flame and swiped Gohan, mobilizing him. In his berserk state, his dragon barrage commenced as he continued to punish him with a powerful surge of fast punches, leading to an uppercut. No! Gohan! Die! 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 Gotenks' continuous die-die missile was activated. Rapid fire of compacted ki blasts spread out. His attack by shooting dozens of continuous ki blasts more powerful than normal ones. Dorgon tried to repel them using his rushing beat. Gotenks thrashed in using his final cannon, his high-speed rush technique. Charged a yellow aura and unleashed a barrage of punches, next proceeded to kick the opponent into the air, knocked him away. That technique was assimilated by Trunks. Unfortunately, the Chimera was still standing, unwavering. Dazed but not confused, Gohan saw Dorgon's noticeable feature, his tail. It was weird since he never had one. Then again, a lot of dragons possess them, even Shenron or Porunga. So Gohan took advantage of it, grabbed it, swung it behind his tricky legs when he teleported, then did a roundhouse kick and stomped it. That stunt caused the Chimera to wail. Gotenks was unsure what just transpired, and his fused form dissipated a little more. Gotenks! We need to attack together, just like you do. What? Trust me. Then Gohan led the way since he was stronger and quicker as just one person. Gohan commandeered the fight. They combined their ki in a single Masenko wave. Gohan and Gotenks put their hands above their heads and built their Masenko attacks. They were ready. They fired them simultaneously, then merged into a large Masenko blast at the opponent, inflicting a huge amount of damage. They both placed their hands above their heads with the palms facing the target. There's the combined Masenko! Finally, there was the Bros Kamehameha. When performing it, Gotenks and Gohan were prepared their Kamehameha attacks. They fired them simultaneously so that the two energy waves merged into one large Kamehameha. This was not enough to defeat the opponent's might. Gohan and Gotenks put more power into the attack, overpowering Dorgon and inflicting a great deal of damage. Eventually, Mikado's body literally dissipated as the volley incinerated him inside out. After a proud pose, Gotenks' vessel kept on flashing until he began to separate. They and Gohan simply gazed out at the demolished field in complete silence. Plop! Boo dropped. He dropped in. He was done fighting the Yakuza forces. Boo left playing with Yakuza toys! Some fun! Pow, pow, pow! Yeah. Well, we need to head for the lookout. Dindy's expecting us and go! And Volt! We need to save them, and Sion too! You're right. Their lives are at stake now. I sure hope the sacred water would work on them. Corn has it in stock, that is. I recalled how much of a hassle it was for Kami and Mr. Popo to get it. Come on, guys. Followed the adults saying Goten, Trunks, and Majin Buu headed toward the heavenly realm. Moments later, Dendy stood beside Ayame, Echidna, Mr. Popo, and the others as Corn applied the sacred water. Each bouncer rested on a separate cot, wrapped in a thick blanket, though Ko's severely crushed legs were being healed by Dende. Just then they felt a shockwave as the lookout quaked briefly. Stepping in was the quartet scarred from the battle back on Earth. How are they, Dende? Are we too late? Walked next to Ko's bed. Trunks followed to Volt's. Hi, Boo! Boo? As if things couldn't possibly get any more bizarre. All three bouncers had to be incapacitated, as they couldn't be given a senzu bean since chances are they're still tranced. Leanne was with him. Are you hurt? She then pointed toward another vacant bed. Here, lie down. Not me! It's my friend Kolefo! Somebody help him! Please! Begged Leanna Dende to assist him. He'll be fine soon, Goten. Laid his hands on Ko's legs. He watched as Korn finally forced him to drink the liquid's restorative properties. The bouncers received the sacred water, which was said to reverse the effects of mind control. Both Gohan and Ayame knew all too well. Again, it was the fallout. The first person that woke up was Sion. They were restored before the sunrise. He began to gradually open his eyes. The faint light from the cerulean sky was enough to help him see his foreign surroundings. He looked around. Finally saw his beloved and his sensei. He reached over and touched Dominique's delicate hand. Sion! Brought her over in a tight, warm embrace. She could hardly tell him how much she missed him, how lucky he was to be back safely in her arms. Upon contact, he noticed something valuable was missing. My dog collar. It's gone. I believe he has it. He being Chaosu. Thanks. Who are you? I'm Chaosu. I was the one who brought you guys here. Welcome to Dende's Lookout. I'm sure the lot of you have some explaining to do. Huh? Chaosu concentrated on his mind, which seemed to be a blank state, as was Volt's and Ko's. Turns out they had some memory lapses. For Sion, he was still pretty out of it. Volt recuperated shortly, and Ko's legs felt stronger, though still irritated from the strain. One by one they came to, and so did Echidna, Leanne, and the Saiyan boys. While Dende eventually reunited with the group, and Ayame was only sulking outside. Yeah, you DBZ fans got what you wanted. The fusion of Go Tanks. Ugh. Again, the idea was that drawing I used to have. I wish I could show it to you guys. I'm not much of a freehand artist. So, I used to make a concept drawing of that. And again, it was from the playing card. As well as having Dorgan as a large chimera. Unfortunately, I lost it. And having Ko with broken legs was just a random idea I conjured since he was always so good at kicking. Also, the final fight maybe have been similar to Biohazard and Sonic Adventure 2. And which I got the inspiration from, and instead of Live and Learn, there's Rob Zombie's Super Beast, but I can't use it due to copyright. Ugh, damn it. The moves I came up with for Dorgan was from the Dissidia Shuffle Wiki. Not much content, but hell, if the Bouncer was referred in Kingdom Hearts via pens, then he should be a villain in another multiverse. He's just so epic. There were also some references to Garlic Jr. Ugh, I hated it. So, originally this was the Fallout, but Future Trunks saved me. Like, geez, I had a huge fallout. So yeah, that should be it for this chapter. Soon will come the epilogue. Ugh, I can't wait to be done with this. So, see you all guys then. Welcome back to the epilogue of the Yakuza saga. Last time, Gotenks and Gohan were able to defeat Dorgan's Chimera form as they combined their own strength against his, and the light ki was apparently too much for the dark ki that he absorbed upon his resurrection from the Dragon Balls. And so, the heroes are recuperating at Dende's lookout. So, how will this go? Let's find out, shall we? Can't wait to do this epilogue. Chapter 9, Hurt and Comfort. As Wong and Dominique reconnected with Sion, Ayame was still sulking outside their quarters. Her old friend, the gentle pussycat Korin, comforted her. He told her he never noticed her resentment toward Krillin and Piccolo while they were fighting Gohan and aiding Garlic Jr., all because of some stupid prank they pulled. Luckily, both Korin and Yajirobe were somehow not affected by the worldwide mist and avoided its air currents. Nevertheless, it reminded her of what just transpired as she observed the Bouncer's mind-altered antics. She's not sure whether she could forgive them or not. Krillin knew how she was feeling firsthand. Still, he did leave with 18 and Chaosu. Well, it has been a few years since you've last seen them, but I wouldn't be so hasty on throwing your friendship away. Just give them some time. After all, you still want to work for them in Dog Street, don't you? He had a point there. She almost forgot about that night she reunited with Sion and Dominique while she was wearing her distinctive red hoodie. It was that piece of clothing alone that brought her back. Ayame was so deep in thought she didn't notice the flight display ahead. Echidna was dumbfounded at what she just saw. What? How? How in the hell can you do that? She couldn't comprehend how a single human was able to fly, or more specifically Gohan. Landed smoothly. What matters is how you control your ki, your latent energy. The lady was still perplexed. Gohan then said enthusiastically, "Show her how it's done, Videl." She gladly demonstrated as her vessel began to rise gradually. She took off and beelined all over the lookout. Echidna was just beyond flabbergasted at what she just saw, though something was bothering her, particularly her breasts, as they suddenly felt sore, soft, and swollen. She actually fell to the ground. Videl and Gohan ran to her side and she began to look very pale and felt very nauseous. They immediately carried her inside the recovery chambers. So this is the Eternal Dragon. Shenron, wasn't it? Dende was showing the dragon to Sion, as well as the lookout's other locations. He was greatly fascinated with the place. So much so, he actually offered to train there as a way to become stronger. Being like Wong's training, but taking it to the next level, he likes to call it. He learned about the teleporter, the hyperbolic time chamber, the power pole connecting to the lookout as a means for transport, and also Korin's tower. Through observance, the wise white feline was greatly admired by Sion's own strength and potential, as well as his restored pure heart. He also wondered that, since he's willing to train partially at the lookout, he wishes for him to be a bona fide Z fighter someday. Although Dominique became worried on how he'll juggle both his bouncer career as well as his newly found training. Don't worry, I'm sure I'll find a way to prioritize both of them somehow. Besides, we used the Nimbus once before. He recalled how fast it was, though he sometimes felt curious as to whether or not he could still ride it. But wasn't the cloud destroyed during that aerial fight? Bouncer's allies did discuss about those past incidences involving the Yakuza. The Nimbus was destroyed. They were undoubtedly surprised as each of the trio couldn't recall anything lethal. Unlike Ayame, they didn't feel too bad considering they were all being manipulated by electro-transmitters, unlike Ayame. Much to their relief, Korin assured he actually does possess several Nimbus stored together as a single large Nimbus. He showed them a massive fluffy cloud located at the outskirts of his tower. He said that after Goku's original Nimbus was destroyed by Tambourine decades ago, Korin summoned the enormous Nimbus to his tower and allowed Goku to choose a new one from his stock. Goku used that particular Nimbus ever since, as well as two sons, Gohan and Goten. Dominique and Ayame were thrilled, yet still the latter felt very troubled. He soon queried on how Dorgan was resurrected by the Dragon Balls, since he recalled Ayame making a wish a few years ago, which erased all memories of his regime. Korin rubbed his chin and thought, I'm guessing that this Yakuza member must have been fascinated with Dorgan by doing his research in a way. No problem, since there's no longer a chance for him to return ever again. The balls can resurrect a person once, regardless of cause. Volt? Volt? Volt! Trunks ran in and ecstatically mentioned he wanted to bring him to Echidna upon her request. Doesn't know where he is. He should be in the recovery chambers. The eccentric boy ran as fast as he could. He didn't seem fazed at all from whatever happened, nor the harm he did to Echidna and Ayame. Deep inside, she eventually went to him with Dende, who recently inspected what was wrong. Vol let out a groan, though he was glad to see her alive, still attacked. With a large grin, she sat on the side of the cot. Volt, I am expecting. I am a father? She noted in affirmation. Yay! Trunks was so excited he leapt while he overheard the news. Soon was Goten as he ran to him at the adjacent chamber. He couldn't be any more enthusiastic for the soon-to-be couple as they gave each other a passionate kiss of congratulations. I can't believe Volt's going to be a dad. Sorry. I can't believe Volt's going to be a dad. This is definitely gonna hurt. Well, for Echidna, anyway. Heh. Wonder how they'll manage their careers. He also decided to lay off fighting for a while. He said the trio agreed to go on personal leave as they had some catching up to do, especially with him as well as Sion, Bolt, and Dominique. Leanne, however, was a difficult case. She seemed to be a little more scorned over those catastrophes. Throughout the rest of the night, she wasn't beside Ko, but rather discussing the entire situation with the head of Lucas. Uh-oh. I was wondering how you're going to manage yours. Goten and Ko looked up at the authoritative figure, as stern as ever, when she towered over them. Their throats were tight, their hearts raced as they felt intimidated. They were going to be punished severely over all the chaos. Ko seemed more subtle, expecting probation or determination. So, what'll happen now? You will be relieved of your current assignments, and your position at Lucas, of course. She slowly walked off. Both men felt like dogs with tails between their legs. Goten became feverish with deep shame and remorse. Leanne actually paused. Is what I like to say. For now, though, you will still be able to be employed within our ranks. Ko! It's okay? The Yakuza incident wasn't entirely your fault since it didn't occur under your own will. They hired you as a mole before you were captured and brainwashed by Mikado. Yet I was still able to bring you back and keep myself alive thanks to some honorable friends. She appreciated the help from Echidna, Ayame, the Dragon team, even though most of them seemed rather out of the ordinary. We're always happy to help you, ma'am. Cute little devil. Isn't he? I just contacted Lucas. My ride should be arriving soon. They heard a high whirring noise belonging to a distant aircraft similar to all those other fighter jets. With a salute, she said, "See ya!" Goten immediately jumped off the bed and raised his voice over the threshold. But hey, wait! What about that date you're going on? Maybe next time, little guy. Look after him for now. He watched gloomily as her takeoff shifted gears and ascended away. Ayame? Dende walked up and needed to speak to her. During the exposition, she became numb. Wang Xian and Dominique heard murmurs of grief and sadness. No, no. Sion noticed something was wrong. He made out her cries. "What do you mean? They're gone? My family's gone?" He listened in as Dende laid a hand on her shoulder and informed her she lost her family when the Yakuza attacked. He was fortunate for her as she left as soon as she did. Otherwise she would have also fallen prey. Remembering his own tragic past, while Sion was just an orphan having lost his mom at the age of 6 due to a street gang assault, which I wish there was more interpretation, began wandering the streets and came across Wong, who became his disciple. Then he lost Chaldea twice at the hands of Doragon, his former Oyabun. Clenched his fist at the thought, but Ayame's pain seemed to soothe him a little. He next remembered his vows of never losing anyone else he cared for. Through sympathy, he, Wong, and Dominique walked slowly toward her, together. Echidna, accompanied by Volt and Trunks, comforted her. She hugged the troubled adult tightly. "Ayame, even if the world may seem to be against you, know that I'll always be by your side. You won't have to suffer through this alone. No, I have already lost a mentor of mine by the hands of a madman, to whom I remorselessly worked for, as well as being close to ending my own life. But I know now that I have friends who will always have my back. The power of friendship never fails. There's Ko and Goten. Besides, Sion got another chance thanks to Dominique. It's all good. Ever since she came around, he began to open to us too. You will always have someone to look out for you. You cannot progress as long as you keep your feelings inside, with your heart broken." Everyone, including Mr. Popo, Goten, Trunks, Gohan, Videl, and Korin, gathered around her. Ayame's best friend assured her that they can be her new family, only if she wishes to let them. "Thank you." She was then wrapped into Sion's arms. The others followed suit with some forms of physical affection, such as kisses, hugs, handshakes, and pats. Everyone reiterated they'll always be there for her, no matter what, since most of them being through their own tragedies. Eventually, her heart began to warm and mend little by little through her friends' never-ending support. Heck, they could even assist her in moving starting tomorrow, to which she reluctantly accepted. As honor for saving the world yet again, just a few more years into the future, Goten and Trunks visited Dog Street once more and became part-time bouncers. And Ayame actually happened to live in the same place Sion used to be. Her new job was a lot more promising than any one she ever had before, although Bola hadn't been born yet and Trunks just started his occupation as president of Capsule Corp. Sion still trained himself at Dende's lookout, mostly at the hyperbolic time chamber, which he admired the most, while still alternating his usual schedule and fate. Also, he and Dominique eventually got to be wetters, as well as starting to know the rules of intimacy. Her reproduction still remains to be seen. Volt and Echidna became proud parents while still managing the bar to this very day. They soon had a child named Pence. It was actually thanks to Trunks' robust that inspired them to have a kid. He had spiky blondes, auburn eyes, shared Echidna's stern personality and Volt's valor. Despite the muscular physique, he was also wearing a headband and a matching Dog Street jersey. Ko and Leanne finally dated after years of waiting. Even though Lucas and being a bouncer became a constant struggle for Ko, his partner never forgot on her promise. And, believe it or not, Sion and Dominique are actually wetters. It wasn't too awkward considering their friends Krillin and 18 are also betrothed to each other. I wasn't sure, but now I feel conflicted because I'm not really sure if Sion should either have Dominique or Ayame, because Ayame is more relatable to him. So, maybe I'll do an alternate chapter? I don't know. Anyway, their portraits stood proudly upon the mantel of a fireplace in Ayame's flat. Sion, Volt, Ko, Leanne, Dominique, Wong, Ayame, Goten, Gohan, Trunks, Krillin, 18, and Pence beamed as they made some poses on the stairwell outside a building. Edge was ready to behold the bouncers of the future. Who knows what misadventures the new and improved family can possibly bring? I always wanted Sion to surpass his own skills, eventually become something more than he was portrayed to be. That's why he's a trainee Z fighter. And why the hell not? He seems to have a Shoryuken move of his own, the fiery tornado uppercut, as well as learn the Kamehameha wave and master his ki sense. I never cared for Dragon Ball Super, so I can't be sure how to move it forward. So this might be the last of the series? But hey, you never know. So yeah, that pretty much does it for part 4 of the Bouncer Tetralogy. Again, I always liked the game so much, and is primarily why I developed this small series of fics, so that I can share my appreciation for it with some of you. I absolutely want the game to have a second shot, whether it be a remake, or have a potential sequel, or perhaps something as small as an anime. I always wanted the game to move forward for over 19 years. If they had some partial references in Kingdom Hearts, then maybe there's a chance. Seriously, Squeenix, please make this happen. I implore you. Please give the Bouncer the positivity, not animosity, it truly deserves. This is the Ecron writer signing off. And that does it for the Bouncer Tetralogy, people. So yes, this is it, guys. For now, anyway. So, wow, it was quite a fun ride, guys. I desperately want the Bouncer to have a sequel or a remake. There better be a petition for this. So, this is the Ecron writer signing out. It's been fun. Farewell, you guys. Let me just change this real quick. But yeah, Squeenix, you should definitely get off your Kingdom Hearts high horse. And man, what a good ending this is. Originally, I was going to have the Light by Disturbed, as well as Show 'em What You're Made Of by the Backstreet Boys, but yeah, due to copyrights, I don't want to take that chance. So, until we meet again, guys. Hold on one sec. Hopefully the internet would play this.